And welcome to this episode of Bravo Team. If my math is correct, this should be episode 31. Sorry, I had a message. It was having a problem for some reason, having a problem streaming on Facebook. Try that again. So, welcome to Bravo Team. If my math is correct, this should be episode 31. We are looking at the second half of the first issue of the Order of Battle. As I said last time, and I was talking to the guys beforehand, I planned on doing probably two issues per episode, but it didn't work out that way. So it looks like we're doing half an issue per episode. So it's going to take me 8 episodes to get through the 4-issue Order of Battle at this rate.
There's a lot of Joes and Cobras. It's worth it, you know?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And like I said, I enjoy talking to you guys about it. So, and real quick, I did pick up this last week. I got a new T-shirt.
All right.
I got it off Etsy from a gentleman named Slickalicious.
Slickalicious. Nice.
Yes. I posted a link here a while back on the G.I. Joe Facebook group.
Well, you did a good thing. You supported an artist, and also you didn't have to bow down and order an old Patriots jersey. So good for you.
And am I right in saying that that's the bazooka?
Yes, this is the bazooka.
Thank you.
I just need to grow some hair and get a helmet, and I can cosplay as. Here we are.
You're halfway there.
Cosplay as Bazooka.
That's the one. I love him. That's the one that Chuck Dixon killed. And I said, "What was wrong with you, Chuck? Why did you want to hurt me so badly?" It came from Hasbro. Apparently, Hasbro said Bazooka has to go. Yeah.
So I apologize in advance if my sound's not like it normally is. My son's puppy chewed through the cord on my mixing board, so
dear,
I had to revert to another set of headphones.
After you do introductions, Aaron, I had something I wanted to bring up briefly.
All right, so let's go and get started some introductions. We're going to start with the voice we're hearing right now. First up, from my regular show, a usual host there, a co-host there, we have Mr. Kevin Reitzel, aka Raider Nerd.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin. Glad you could join us.
Glad to be back. I'm excited for this.
Glad to have you here. Also, and Kevin is over on the fpnet.podbean.com, along with, he brought along
Fandom Podcast Network. Yeah, I got my buddy.
And today he brought along a special guest. We have Kyle Wagner from the Fandom Podcast Network. Hey, Kyle.
It is great to be here, talk a little G.I. Joe, but I'll forewarn you, Aaron, when you have both Kevin and I on, a Fandom Podcast Network invasion can be more successful than most Cobra invasions.
Well, and I expect that, so it's all right. It's all right.
We're much better shots than the Vipers.
Well, honestly, anyone is, but that's besides maybe stormtroopers, but that's another story.
I was going to say.
Also joining us is from the very merry land down under. We have Mr. David Finn. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Aaron. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Kyle. It's good to see Kevin brought along a +1. And, excited to be here. Got out of bed, had a coffee, just raring to go. Talk Joe. Joe.
Yeah.
And so far, we've got one person from the chat. It looks like they're on the YouTube. So, again, if you're in the chat, feel free to join us. Throw your comments in the chat. We'll read them on the air. Let me know who's out there. I'd love to hear from you guys.
That's probably my one fan. He's probably turned up.
There you go.
Around,
You know what?
It's more stalking than anything, really.
I doubled my fan base today, so that's good. So, Kevin, you had something you wanted to comment on before we get started proper.
Yeah, I got to take umbrage of the last regular issue of G.I. Joe Headcast where you guys talked about episode 52. I got to give my thoughts on this real quick. First of all, before we go any forward, I know that you rate the covers from 1 to 5 Joe Colas, with 5 being the best.
Right.
And I need to talk to my buddy Kyle real quick. Kyle, this is the issue that I'm referring to here, issue number 52. What if you had to rate the cover of this issue, Kyle, from 1 to 5 Joe Colas? What would you call this? What would you rate this?
I'm putting that at 4 Joe Colas.
Okay. Can you say why? Out of curiosity, why 4? Why not 3? Why not 5?
I'm a fan of both of those characters. I do like the artist because I think it's, if I remember right, it's one of the more famous artists. But if I remember right, he also didn't do the inside of the issue. As good as that, as much as I like that cover, G.I. Joe has some spectacular covers that are some 5 Joe Colas, like the one you've got behind your shoulder over there. I'm always a big fan of this. There were several covers in the 20s that were just phenomenal, especially the early 20s, like 20, 21, 22. I wouldn't put this one with that elite, but it's a great shot of Storm Shadow quick kick.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you slide off the slap on the wrist just because you're my brother from another mother and co-founder of the Phantom Podcast Network. But there's some members of this podcast that rated it below a 4. And I'm going to point out Mr. Dave here and Aaron Moss. And but Jared did also give it a 4, so I'm going to let him with a slap on the wrist too. And plus, he made sure that Megaforce won the action film Face Off against the Force of One, and he gave me a shout out on the podcast. Aaron, I think you gave this a 3 or a 3.5. Dave, I think you might have given it a 3 as well.
Really?
I want to give my thoughts real quick. That first of all, this is one of the most iconic covers of all time. To where enough, I made sure that Mr. Larry Hama himself signed it.
Oh, very nice.
And this is one of the ones that I like because if you remember in the comic or in the cartoon series, the Pyramid of Darkness, Quick Kick kicked Storm Shadow's butt in that episode, right? But then tables are turned, of course, when he goes into the comics. And you guys were complaining about Quick Kick's face right there. I just got to say, I don't know if you noticed, but he's getting punched by Storm Shadow. And I don't know if you watch John Woo films enough where he likes people to make contact with people's faces and they're getting kicked, or you've seen Sylvester Stallone getting hit.
Yeah.
Of course it's going to look weird. Okay.
You got a point there.
All right.
Did I rate this? Because I don't remember any of this. Because I was going to give it a 4.
3. You gave it a 3. Okay.
I was probably tired and grumpy. You know?
This is a 5 Joe Cola cover right here. I'm just saying. All right.
Well,
but you know what I'm going to do though, Dave? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let you off with a slap on the wrist because you're Australian and I've married an Australian, so that makes me half Australian. So in a way, we're brothers.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you, man. Yeah.
And Aaron, I've decided I'm going to let you with the slap on the wrist too because you've had me on as a guest for so many times and you love G.I. Joe and you've done so much for G.I. Joe. So I'm going to let you slide.
I'm duly chastised.
And real quick, what was it, Brad? I'm gonna let Brad slide too because he actually made reference to an ad in the comic, and he also brought up a really good topic about Christmas with G.I. Joe with Cobra Claws coming to town. So there you go.
I'm just gonna weigh in. Kevin gives me a little bit of a slide because I'm the one who makes him sound good on our podcast. So
this is true. Yeah, be nice. I'm gonna let him slide.
That'd be good too.
You gotta be nice to Eddie.
But this is one of those that pops out number 52 and when I'm thumbing through back issues, I always pull an extra because I think it just looks great with the green, and I love it when you get the two martial artists fighting each other. So there, I just had to get that off my chest.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you for sharing.
You make a very good point.
You're wrong, but very good. Put me now.
A touche.
So, anyways, let's go ahead and talk about some G.I. Joe Order of Battle, unless you want to berate me for something else there, Kevin.
No, I love you, brother.
1 second. Let me do one thing here. Okay, so again, last time we got up through dial tone. So for those playing along at home, we are going to start off with Doc. And let me see if I can do this right.
This is issue 1 still of 1 in a 4-issue limited series. Order of
Yes.
Battle.
Let me go ahead and see if I can get that in there.
Kyle, what are your thoughts on Order of Battle, by the way? I didn't think to ask you. I know you were excited about
Kevin.
Talking about it.
I love any kind of like this, or when Marvel Comics would do the usually every few years a Mighty Marvel Handbook miniseries where you got these character profiles, because even though in this case too with the Order of Battle, Larry Hama was even able to expand more than what was on the back of the cards for the character figures and reference some things that may have happened in the comic. And two, it's a great way. I think they're a great way to get people interested into the actual comic because they can get familiar with the characters and kind of identify with the characters if they're jumping into the series a little bit later. And that way they kind of get a familiarity with the characters. And they're just fun. Like I said, especially you go back into the 80s when these kind of comics were the kinds where, hey, I'm just starting my work at Marvel. We're throwing you some grunt work. you are shocked at the big name artists that exist now that actually went back and worked on some of these. I know Todd McFarlane, I think, did a few of these sketches for the Order of Battle, and a few other. I think Jim Lee might have even done one of the characters. So that's fun and impressive. And then you add in the fact too, this is all Larry Hama and his brainchild, and you're dealing with kind of a sense of unity with these characters in the aspect of compared to like a Marvel handbook, which you have the history of from all these different writers and everything like that. It keeps it tight, and I think it's a great way to introduce people into the world who's interested in it, but trying to get to know it a little better. The sad part about this is these came out 85, 86 guys?
86.
86. So there was a lot of those NJOs that didn't make the Order of Battle issue that I wish they would have done a supplement on to include some of those.
Well, as we talked about last time, there's some of the older Joes that didn't make it into the Order of Battle either.
Yeah.
So they.
Where's Robo Joe? Nowhere.
We're Shooter.
Of course,
definitely missing.
The Order of Battle did add somebody to the Joes who was actually never a member of GI Joe.
Yes, and we'll talk about that.
Did Quinn make it? I don't remember. Did he make it?
No, I don't think he made it into the Order of Battle.
So. Yeah, no.
So we're going to start. What we're going to do is like we did last time. We each take one page. I'll start it off, and then we'll have Kyle read the next one, Dave, and then Kevin. So let's go and get started. The first one up is Doc. He's the medical doctor. His file name is Greer Carl W. A primary military specialty, medical doctor. Secondary military specialty, chaplain's assistant. Birthplace, Conrad, Massachusetts. Grade is 03, or I guess 03. Graduated from Harvard Medical School. Completed residency at Johns Hopkins. Hope for a guarantee of a GI Joe assignment upon enlistment. Told flatly that the Army made no such deals. Doc enlisted anyways and achieved his goal through ordinary channels. Graduated Airborne School, Mountaineering School, and Desert Training Unit. A vowed pacifist, Doc believes that the GI Joe team is the best we have. We send them into worst situations imaginable because that's where we need them most. And when the going gets tough, they need something more than a pill roller. I'm their main man. So again, this is Doc. Just 1 second.
Do you have the slideshow like you did last time of these?
That's what I was trying to figure out. 1 second. There we are. I can't figure out how to get it to show the slideshow. I don't have it set up as a slideshow.
You mean to share your page, maybe?
Yeah, I was trying to present and share screen. And
I'll show him right there. There's Doc right there.
There he is. Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's showing it.
Genius.
Again, this will be edited out when I get to the podcast, but those watching, bear with me. I'm checking something real quick on the YouTube and seeing how it shows up on there. But again,
so Doc was basically a conscientious observer, so to speak, like the Hacksaw Ridge movie with Andrew Garfield.
I might be able. Let me show you. I might be able to help you out here, guys. Let's see if I can. So let me do this.
And yes, it's not. I don't know how to do that. It's not showing.
You had it last time.
Yeah, I was pulling a plot. I don't remember what I did to pull it up. So I didn't think to pull anything out because I thought I could share directly, but I'm not doing something right. It's not a video file. It's not like extra camera. It's not a slide per se. Let me try this. Just 1 second. Again, I apologize for those watching at home live. Let me try one thing real quick. Bear with me.
I'm sending you a link in a private chat there, Mr. Aaron.
Okay.
If you can open that up in a tab, you might be able to share that tab. It's the Read All Comics.
Okay, and that's. Well, let me see if I can share that tab. Because I was trying to share. Well, yeah, see, I'm having the same problem. I can share screen, And because I've got the file digitally on my computer. Let me try this and see what it does.
And so if you scroll your screen down on that, you
Mhm.
might be able to.
Can you guys see that or?
I can. Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, let me go back to what I was doing and see if order a battle. And again, I apologize to everyone at home, but let me try this. Whoops. That's not what I want. Share screen. Window.
Is that Junkyard?
No, that's not on my side. That's someone else's dog, I think. Can you guys see the order
It's my
about
dog, yeah.
page?
I cannot.
No. Huh? Yeah,
You took
I'm
it
just
away.
trying to. I don't know what's happening there. I was trying to shut it off my computer instead of. I was doing it the same way. Well, I'll go ahead and go to what you sent me. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
And yeah, this is the same place. Their sister site or whatever is where I get my digital comics from. So I'm very familiar with this site. I don't normally go this way, but so for those watching, you should be able to see Doc. So yeah, like I say, he is a pacifist. As we'll get to later down the line, either the next episode or the following episode, Lifeline is much the same way. He has another one that is a pacifist. I like Doc. He's the original Doctor of the Joe team. Yeah, he's just a great character. He showed up in the comics. He showed up in the cartoon quite a bit. And yeah, Doc, while he does what he needs to do, yeah, he doesn't believe in taking a life at all possible because again, that's not what he was trained to do. He was trained to save lives. So let's go and get some thoughts. Okay, I can see it now, huh? That's weird. So, Kyle, thoughts on Doc?
Doc was always one of my favorite Joe characters. I love the figure. In the comics, while he might be a pacifist, he does throw a mean snowball. And I actually think maybe his greatest moment in the cartoon was going back to the Weather Dominator when he helped develop the mirrors that absorb the energy from the lightning and sent it back, and you have that where he runs the test with blowtorch in the Joe headquarters.
Nice
Yes.
reference, Kyle. Very
nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
I like that. Nerd.
Unfortunately, it does not end well for Doc in the comics, and that's still a sore button with me to this day.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Doc did not get the best end of that deal, unfortunately, which we'll get to in the comic here at some point in the future. Kevin, what do you think about Doc?
I had Doc as the action figure. Remember those little battle packs that you had that had extra weapons and like you know like helmets and stuff like that?
Yep.
My Doc was not a pacifist. That dude carried a weapon. You know, and I remember I remember playing with him inside the vamp, you know, with Clutch and
Right.
and then there was like some like a little gurney cot thing too. I can't remember where that came from. If it was part of the Doc action figure, or
it was part of the Doc action. It was part of
the
yeah.
Came with Doc.
Yeah,
and
stretcher,
stretcher.
Yeah, I remember that. And but yeah, my Doc fought. I just remember that. He's a great character. You always got to have the medic, you know. So yeah.
Wait, most important question, guys. Which Joe spent the most time on Doc Stretcher for you?
Probably Duke.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. He was just in a coma.
Yeah.
And Dave. Oh, and real quick, as me and Kyle was talking about earlier, they have announced they should have a Doc figure coming to the G.I. Joe classified line.
Oh, cool. That's
So
good. I'll definitely get him actually because I think he's a great design.
I definitely want to get. So, anyways, Dave, thoughts on Doc?
Yeah, no, I 100% like Doc. I think it's interesting that he's an avowed pacifist, and it makes sense. And yeah, it does remind me a lot of that movie Hacksaw Ridge, which is the same sort of concept. And yeah, I mean, so in the comics, like, how long does he last? Because I'm not sure if I've read past the part, like how like roughly what issue. Does
Issue 109.
Oh, so he makes it a fair way. Okay,
So,
yeah.
That was the Saw Viper, right? Saw Viper.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
They made
great
a visit upon
character,
some of
and
our Joes.
and I'll definitely get his classified for sure.
Right on.
Yeah, right on.
Well, unless anyone has any thoughts on Doc, we'll move on to the next character.
I will say, as a kid, I wouldn't have even understood what a pacifist was. So he would have definitely been fighting if I had the figure. Everyone was called into duty, you know.
Everyone had step up. Kyle,
Yep.
would you like to take the next one? Which we have on the screen?
Wow, I get my first episode and I get the man himself.
There you
Damn it.
go.
Jealous.
Jeez. Jeez. Thanks, Aaron.
Hey, no problem.
We are talking Duke. He is the first sergeant. File name is Hauser Conrad S. SNRA 213-757793. Primary military specialist, airborne infantryman. Secondary military specialist, artillery small arms armorer. Born in St. Louis, Missouri. A grade 08 master sergeant. Duke was fluent in French, German, and English when he enlisted in 1967, graduated top of his class at Airborne School, Fort Benning, opted for U.S. Army Special Language School, specialized in Chinese and Southeast Asian dialects, went Special Forces in 1969, worked with tribesmen in the boonies of South Vietnam, ran 4 different Special Force schools, turned down a commission in 1971, commands by winning respect, current assignment, acting first sergeant, G.I. Joe team. Statement after declining commission, they tell me that an officer's job is to impel others to take the risks so that this officer survives to take the blame in the event of total catastrophe. With all due respect, sir, if that's what an officer does, I don't want any part of it.
He wants to be on the front line to be captured. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Or to mac on the nearest hot G.I. Joe lady.
Or any lady, honestly. Captured slaves.
Or Baroness.
Native prisoners, things like that,
So, Kyle, what are your thoughts on Duke?
So I think personally for me, Duke is one of the more dividing characters of G.I. Joe. A lot of people love him. A lot of people were not fond of him. He kind of, he kind of came in and in the comics, basically upspurted Hawk there. And I think there was a lot of confusion when they first brought in Duke. Like, wait, what's going on here? What the heck? I think the cartoon made him the clear-cut leader of the Joes, but even as a leader, he felt like he was always outshined by other members on the Joe team. I love his introduction in the comic. The General Flag funeral with him and Roadblock showing up to take out the plane that's going there. The cartoon, obviously, he's kind of the centerpiece because of Snake Eyes being able to speak really kind of was a detractor at the time in the cartoon for but I think Duke is necessary. I just don't know if he is considered the best of the Joe leaders because they've had a lot of Joe leaders over the years, both in the comics and in the cartoon. And I never honestly felt like Duke was fully in charge in the comics. I never quite had that feeling with him like they portrayed him in the cartoon. So
right.
But Duke was macking on it. Duke was the ladies' man on that. And then of course, the man can survive a python, cobra to the heart. So just saying, there's something extra there.
Don't worry, Duke's gonna be okay.
Yeah, we have.
Even though we don't see it, thank God.
Thank you, Optimus Prime.
Yeah, we have Transformers thing for that. So
hilarious.
Kevin,
as Kyle said, great introduction in the comics, and I like Duke as a leader. In my toys, in my G.I. Joe group, he was always a leader. I just thought his action figure looked effing cool. There was just something simplistic about his outfit, and it's a fun costume to put together. I've had friends of mine that have done this. I've considered it myself. And I remember making like a special little like cardboard / electrical tape. What was it? holster for his gun. And I did that with some other action figures too. And I just, but I let him use, what was it? Was it Stalker's gun? Yeah, because Stalker's had that cool like little stock that came out on the weapon. I just thought he looked cool. He was one of my favorites, and I thought he was just fun and funny in the cartoon series. We always have an inside joke when he gets captured, or who he's flirting with. And I just think he's cool. He's my favorite GI Joe leader.
I have a quick question for you guys.
Yes,
Two
sir.
things. One, how many of you got Duke on a blister pack, or did you do the mail order in for Duke on the figure?
I can't remember. I want to say I was always doing the mail-ins, Kyle. So I'm pretty sure I did, but I did get the blister pack too.
Because I remember when I got the mail order, and his gun was actually a version of Stalker's gun, but it was like this neon green.
Wow.
I think I got him off the shelf because I wasn't buying at the time he was out for the mail-in. I don't think so. I think I bought him off the shelf.
Lastly, are Cartoon Duke and Matt Tracker separated at birth?
Possibly. That's a very good possibility. And I know they're trying to match up some of those universes and bring them together. So maybe he's really Duke's brother, not Falcon. But
Falcon.
Dave, thoughts on Duke?
Yeah, love Duke actually. And as kind of more of a bit of a novice, to me, he's like one of the core members. Was he in? He was in the original like lineup, wasn't he? Duke did he come out?
Well,
yeah.
No, he wasn't in the original 13.
Right,
No.
he wasn't. Okay.
Originally, he was you had to order him,
Right,
send in
okay,
flag
okay.
points and a couple bucks, whatever it was, and
he didn't come in till issue 20. What was it?
19?
19.
I thought it was 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I think it was
the-
19. Yeah.
In the like, based on my research, and I use that word loosely, Duke in the comics is never used as much by Larry as he is in the cartoon used, is he? Because in the cartoon,
Correct.
Duke is like one of the absolute main guys, and which is how I think of him. But and he also doesn't look super like this picture in the cartoon, does he? He's younger. Yeah.
Yeah,
Am I right?
I think he looks a little younger in the cartoon, and yeah, he does
Yeah.
take in the cartoon. He, at least for the first season, he takes more center stage.
Yeah, which is what I think of when I think of him. Great character though. If I was collecting back in the 80s, I would have had him for sure. He would have been a linchpin, like the quarterback of the team. He's a 10 out of 10 character in my book. Yeah, I think it's interesting that apparently Larry sort of he had him at a bit of a remove, I believe. But I liked Duke in the comics in the Chuck Dixon IDW run. Duke was pretty cool. And some of the interactions and stuff you had and everything, he was cool. Yeah, he's a good character. He's a great character. What are we just saying? Good. He's great. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I don't think I like him as much as Dave does, but yeah, like I said, my first introduction to Duke was in the cartoon. When he's knocking Scarlet out of the way, and didn't read my green card. I'm a man of action. I kind of wish they would have had that in his file card, just because that's one thing. One thing I remember about Duke is him tackling Scarlet. She's like, well, you can just watch out. Didn't you read my green card? I'm a man of action. And as Kevin says, yeah, he's known in the cartoon for either getting captured or macking on the ladies.
Yeah.
And yeah, in the first season, he was more prominent. Again, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, Aryan poster child. Definitely, at the time, mid '80s, when Rush was the bad guys, and we were looking for that, that kind of role model. He definitely in the cartoon took more of center stage, where the comic book, Larry, I guess, put him in his place because Larry had Hawk leading the team more than Duke. So
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do like Duke, and usually it comes down to are you a Duke fan or a Flint fan? Is usually how the Joe fandom's divided on these two. So I personally like Duke over the two, but still both great characters. But yeah, I like Duke. So unless there was any thoughts on Duke that we haven't mentioned, we can move on to the next one. And let me go back to my screen here. And this one would be for Mr. Reitzel. The Raider nerd.
Yay! Dusty. Yeah, right here. Dusty. All right.
Yep.
Code name Dusty. Desert Trooper. File name Ronald W. Tador. SN is 371-11-4605. Primary military specialty is infantry. Secondary military specialty is refrigeration and air conditioning maintenance. That's right. Birthplace, Las Vegas, Nevada. He's a Raiders fan. Grade E4. Dusty loves the desert. It is clean, pure, and unforgiving. Anakin would disagree. Unlike Vegas, which is always willing to give you a second chance, Dusty was working as a refrigerator repairman and studying desert ecology at night when his pre-enlistment application for the G.I. Joe team was approved. He took basic at Fort Bliss, Texas, and loved every minute of it. He's a qualified expert at the M16, M14, M1911A1, and M60. Quote, he says, "It's not enough nowadays to have a rapid reaction force response instantaneously to explosive situations in far-flung corners of the globe. That force must be capable of surviving in a diverse array of hostile environments to accomplish its objectives. If that means having one expert for every type of environment on every team to take on survival responsibilities on that terrain, then so be it." End quote for Mr.
Cool.
Dusty.
That's cool.
And your thoughts on him, Kevin?
I was always a fan of Dusty. I like the fact that his helmet had that little cloth thing in the back, you know, and I loved his camouflage, and I just thought he looked so cool. He was just a good looking Joe, and I love it when members of our fellow G.I. Joe Finest costume group do Dusties, and my friend Eric down in San Diego does one too, and he's just great. And I don't remember the name of his rifle though. It has that the magazine that's kind of behind the trigger. But I remember when I started playing Counter-Strike, like when I first started playing like first-person shooters after Star Wars Dark Forces, I remember that was a gun you can get, and then you can also get it on like one of the Call of Duty games, and I just always called it the Dusty rifle because it's based on a real weapon, and I just always thought it looked cool. And when you started playing Counter-Strike or Call of Duty and you use that weapon, it had a certain sound, and I always thought it was really cool. Love Dusty, one of my favorites.
Well, I don't know how accurate it is, but the Yojo website says that for the figure, the toy, he had a black FAMAS submachine gun.
Yeah, the Fama is, I think they nicknamed it the Fama. Yes,
Fama.
Yep. It's a real weapon. It's been used in world conflicts over the last like 40 or 50 years, if I remember correctly. It's a really cool thing. I like that big handle it's got on the top too.
Oh yeah, very nice. Dave, thoughts on Dusty?
I like Dusty a lot. I'm not as big a fan of the classified figure, and I it's been in and out of my Amazon cart many times, and it's back in right now.
The struggle is real with the Amazon cart. Yes, save for later. You know,
I agree. I love this picture of Dusty, and if they could do a classified that looked like that facially, I would already have bought him. But if you look on the classified figure, his face looks absolutely nothing like. The thing. Is that him?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't look like Dusty to me. When I see that, I don't think Dusty. One of the things I love about Dusty, he's got that hat on, which I always remember Ivan Lendl, the tennis player, wore in the 80s, with the sides come down as like a Legionnaire's cap or something. Yeah. I see. I just don't like the face. Everything but the face, man. It's just
So got no problem with his face personally, but then again, that's me.
But you know why I don't like about it, man? He basically just looks like Ken in like desert outfit, and I'm like, Dusty doesn't look like Ken, you know. Look at that face. Look at that face. It actually looks a bit like Ivan Lendl, the tennis player from the 80s.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I love Dusty as a character, and I love that he's a desert trooper. And that's all good stuff. He's a bit like Aquaman. He needs to be near the water to be effective. He needs to be near a desert. Like if he's going to fight you, he wants to fight you in the Sandlot. But he's a great character. I mean, and that gun is badass. So, look, actually talking about it now, I've kind of convinced myself to buy the classified, even though it is.
It's in your cart. Go get it, brother. It's in your cart. It's in your cart. Come on, it's
I might
right
be able to help
there.
with this debate. The Tiger Force version of Dusty classified.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a little bit more camo on the face on that.
Okay, well that's yeah. All right, well I'll check it out. But yeah. Look, I love Dusty. Does he get much play? Because I don't really know him that well. Like I've heard him more mentioned.
Yeah, he's not like a main character. He gets some others. If he gets a few spotlights in both the cartoon and the comic. I know the first one I picked up, I've mentioned 58. There's a side story with him and Mainframe off to do some mission, and some little kids fawning all over Dusty. How Dusty's a real warrior, and meanwhile Mainframe's just a nursemaid.
Sure.
And just a sissy basically because he works on computers. And by the end of the story, Mainframe shows that
nerd
what he does. Yeah, and so they're driving away, and Dusty's Dusty has. It's not a Dusty story per se because Mainframe ends up taking center stage, but we do see some of Dusty in there, and so he does have appearance. Like I said, there's an episode, or I said it was a 2-episode in the cartoon, the Trader, where Dusty kind of takes center stage. Yes, we'll be talking about that soon.
Episodes of the cartoon.
What's it called? What's it called? What's
the Trader?
The Trader. Okay.
Yeah. Part 1 and
by
part
the way,
2.
I'm just looking at Tiger Force, and Tiger Force is pretty cool. And actually, looking at it now, I think I'm probably going to buy both. So you've talked me into it, guys. Because that Tiger Force does look cool, different camo.
But yeah, no, like you guys said, I like Dusty. He's got a great outfits. As we were talking about, he gets some love in both the cartoon and in the comic. I do like that his real name is let me see real quick. Ronald Tadar, which is an anagram for Ron Rudat, which is the G.I. Joe artist that brought a lot of the early characters to life.
Mm-hmm.
And as we talked about last time, a lot of characters in the G.I. Joe is named on or based on real people, either their likeness or their names. And this is one that they took one of the main designers for the toys. And 1 second, Kevin. There we are.
I know what that's like.
Yes. And so they gave him. There we are. So, and I've always liked Dusty. He's just a great character. I like his look, that desert. And he is the desert guy. So, out of that situation, he may not be as effective, but I've always liked Dusty. He's one of the great characters to me. So, a big fan about. I didn't get the the Tiger Force Tiger Force version because I'm not a huge fan of the sub teams, but I had to get the regular classified version of Dusty. So,
what would be cool to see like a time travel story where Dusty goes back and fights in like World War II and against the African Corps and stuff. Like, why not? Like, like against Rommel and all that kind of stuff. Like, put him in some proper desert conditions.
Yeah.
Only in the cartoon, not in the comic. We're not that. Yeah. Only in the cartoon.
Yeah. That would definitely fit in the cartoon.
Yeah, do it. Let's get it done.
First thing you bring out another cartoon. But anyways, Kyle, thoughts on Dusty?
I've always liked the character. I liked him very much in the cartoon. Like I said, the Trader 2-parter was one of my favorites. He actually infiltrates Cobra completely. It's great. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was Dusty not the one who carried Sneak Peek out of the desert before Sneak Peek, quote unquote, died? Because I know that they played up on that later in the comics.
I can't remember.
I want to say you're correct, but it's been a while since I've read those issues, so don't.
We'll get to them in about 3 years, Kyle.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Just hang on there,
because I think
we're almost there.
IDW or one of the others played up on that storyline later on with Sneak Peek actually being alive. So I know Kevin has a soft spot for Sneak Peek. So no, it's a classic design character. I think he was one of the best ones with having the actual piece of cloth on the original figure, which a lot of people liked. And I know that they reissued him as part of the original Tiger Force when they did that the first go around as well.
Right.
So, but yeah, he's just one of those Joes. He's a solid Joe, whether you have him in the comic, the cartoon, or the figure. There's a way to include Dusty.
And I didn't get, because I was getting out of the toys by that point, but I know they reissued him later on. They had a new version of him when he came with an animal, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking at Kevin.
Did he really?
Yeah, I think, didn't he come with an animal later on, if I'm not mistaken?
Well,
But
they
a
added
Dusty-
the second
vulture
Desert
or
Trooper,
something.
which was, I think his name was Sandstorm, and he came with a lynx.
Okay,
That's
maybe
cool.
I'm getting mixed up with somebody else, because I was out of it by then, but I
You
was
didn't
thinking
come with the puppy like this guy.
Yeah.
does, you know?
Yeah.
And by the way, my money
Yes,
junkyard
junkyard.
just showed up yesterday. I was going to say Dusty should have like an armadillo or something that's deadly.
Totally right.
Vulture.
Yeah.
He's a vulture.
A vulture. Yeah, get a vulture. Yeah, that'd be cool. Like a pet vulture.
I think one of the Cobras
A
already have
turkey
that.
vulture. He needs a turkey vulture.
Hey, I think one of the Cobras already have a vulture as a pet,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
They could fight each other. It'd be cool. I tell you what, I've done a 180 on Dusty. I love Dusty. Looking at all this shit, like he's great. Yeah.
So, next one up, I guess, Dave, your turn.
Yeah, hold on a sec while I just bring up my. Sorry, I got so carried away. Okay, Flash. Codename Flash. Laser rifle trooper. File name Gambello Anthony S. Anthony S. Gambello. Primary military specialty infantry. Secondary military specialty electronic CBR. Birthplace Lodi, California. That's like the song, the Creedence song.
It's actually pronounced Lodi. Lodi.
Lodi.
California.
And that is like the Creedence Clearwater Revival song, yeah? There's a song called Lodi, yeah. Flash is highly skilled in many aspects of electronic technology and is capable of equipment repair in the field. Specialized education, electronic school, chemical school, covert electronics, qualified expert M16, M19, 11A1, XMLR-1A shoulder-fired laser rifle. Flash is methodical and persistent. He has an innate and unshakable faith in the order of the universe. He's working on his master's degree in electronic engineering nights. I'll be honest, I never heard of him. I don't know what to say other than he's got a laser rifle, which I guess back in the 80s was pretty cool.
Yep. And yeah, Flash, he's one of those, he's a good character, but yeah, I don't have a lot of love for him. I don't know, he's never really struck out at me. He was one of the earlier figures. He was, I want to say in the first wave. I was double checking before I said anything, make sure I'm not on crack.
You're correct. He was one of the first.
He was in the first
his
wave.
Original 13.
So yeah, he
really?
was one of the
So he's
originals.
right back.
Yeah.
And
so
you know
he
how
was,
you can kind of tell, look at his file card. It's so much briefer than
Yeah.
a lot of the other ones. Like, because obviously Larry started adding a lot more flavor. So as I was reading it, I was like, yeah, this
He's
is-
on the
it's
kit.
sort of-
He's on the issue of GI Joe #1 without his helmet.
Right.
Yeah, no, as we talked about last time, yeah, a lot of these early file cards started off a lot more basic.
Yeah.
And as Larry went along, he started embellishing them a little bit more, started getting more flavor, more detail, more whatever it may have been. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, so I like
I
Flash.
wouldn't buy this one. I wouldn't buy this one as a classified. To me, he's a pass. You know.
Yeah, see the Flash. I'm not sure they've offered him as I don't think they've offered him as a classified jet. He's one that if I have extra money, I may pick him up when they do. But yeah, he's not one that I'm going to rush out and pre-order.
Sure.
I like he's from Lodi. That's about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of me. My wife has family up there. That's where she's from originally.
Right.
So I'm not going to hold that against Lodi. No.
No.
The couch is comfortable. I'm just
Yes, it
gonna
is. Oh no, I've got manlands. I'm. But no, it's my wife's from Lodi. Her family's got some family up there, so I'm familiar with Lodi. So I like that. But yeah, other than that, for the Flash fans out there, I'm sorry he doesn't jump out at me. My Flash is Barry Allen. So Kyle, thoughts on Flash?
Okay, so this is my first time on here, so if you can bear with me for just a second, because there is a legitimate GI Joe gripe I have.
Please.
The disrespect for over half of the original 13 is ridiculous.
Oh my
And
god!
Flash falls.
Preach, Kyle, preach.
Flash falls into that category. I love the Flash character. I love the look with the orange pads. He stood out. He's got a laser rifle. Come on now. And yes, we got a very cool second laser rifle trooper much later on down the road in sci-fi. The issue with Flash was they put out Grand Slam, and they eventually had to repaint the Grand Slam figure silver and put him with the jump jetpack so you could tell the two apart. Because otherwise, if you got the HAL laser, you got Grand Slam with it, and then you had Flash, and they looked exactly the same. And I do think there were some actual really cool moments with Flash early on in the first about 10 issues of G.I. Joe. There's the one on their first mission where he's cutting through the pipe, and there's a lot of pressure on there and everything like that. And there's a great shot from the original cartoon in the intro where you see Flash shooting the laser rifle at the target. But Flash falls into we are going to disrespect about half of the original 13 Joes. And, it's a crime. I would love a classified figure of Flash. I would put that on pre-order.
All right. Right on.
Right on. Kevin.
Kyle, you just took these younger G.I. Joe fans to school, boy. Flash is one of the OGs. You put respect on Flash, man. This guy was there in the beginning. He looked so freaking cool. The only thing I didn't like though is that his little visor thing kept coming off his helmet.
Yes,
and the little cord from his rifle to his backpack or whatever would sometimes pop off
all the time.
But he was the original. And Kyle, remind me, was he the one that? Did he come in a card or did he come with the missile? Who came with the missile thing?
Hawk came with the missile. Grand Slam came with the HAL. Flash was on his own.
That's
card.
That's right. Yeah. He was OG. He's on the original first issue cover. This dude just looked cool. And at first I was kind of like, wait, dude's got a laser rifle? And, everyone else has got conventional weapons. But then I started thinking about, well, wait a minute, there's lasers that are happening out there. It could happen. And yes. Then we had the Pretender come later on. Sci-fi right there. Look at that guy. Thinks he's a laser guy. Come on. He's on he's on a do-back right now. So
it's probably better camouflage for him than any time in G.I. Joe.
But yeah, Flash is OG. Let's show some respect on him. This dude is cool. Dude had a freaking laser gun. Come on. Love him.
I just gotta throw in Larry Hama wrote that laser rifle pretty well because there was an issue where they were trapped in the pit with a Cobra robot that had infiltrated. And one of the things was Flash, I can get everybody out of here, but the rifle is going to eat the oxygen in this room real quickly.
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, Larry was very realistic on that. He was very much on point. So, and I know disrespect him towards Flash. It's not that I don't like him or I disrespect. Yeah, I do acknowledge that he's one of the first. He was in the first grouping. He's not a bad character. I just don't think he got very much love in the cartoon or the comic for them. I mean, he had a few moments here and there, but I don't think he got enough.
That was part of the disrespect for the original 13. When they went to the cartoon, not a lot of them got some love. So
Well, I guess at the time, and I mean, I'm coming into it so long afterwards, but I guess at the time, some of them popped hard, and they followed that, and maybe unfortunately, Flash was lost in the shuffle, And maybe it didn't help that his name was Flash when you've got DC with Flash. That may have actually been a factor,
So, and just real quick, my theory on the original 13 is, for most part, those figures all look basic, straightforward military, and it was kind of hard to tell them apart. And it wasn't until the second wave of Joes where they got a little bit more of an individual look to them, which I think was in line for the cartoon as well, so they stood out a little more.
Yeah, no, so just what I was going to get ready to say, Kyle. Yeah, I think that's part of the problem with the original 13 is that, I mean, you got Stalker's a black guy, Scarlet's the lady.
Lava.
Other than that, most of them are white guys with green uniforms. Maybe some he's got the orangish vest, but most of them for the most part look very similar. That it was harder to tell them apart without give them some distinguishing features. And then they later on they would start giving the characters actually distinct looks and making them stand out more. So that may be part of the problem with the original 13. Again, part of the problem in quotes.
He's
a good character. He's just he's just, I don't know, he just never stood out to me. So no disrespect intended. I realize he's one of the original 13. Don't want to get your ire up there, Kyle.
Well, the
So we
Colts
move
come
on to
in
the next
I might
one.
have a short fuse when it comes to that.
See what you did there.
See what you did there.
I don't get that. No. So the next one up, as I mentioned earlier, this is Flint. He is a warrant officer. His file name, Fairborn Dashel R. Primary military specialty, infantry. Secondary military specialty, helicopter pilot. Birthplace, Wichita, Kansas. Grade E6. Flint was a Rhodes Scholar and earned his degree in English literature. Bored by the groves of academia, he enlisted in the Army and applied his tenacity and concentration he had used so well scholastically to grind his way through airborne school, ranger school, special forces school, and finally flight warrant officer school, graduating each with top honors. A thorough tactical planner, Flint try that again. A thorough tactical planner, Flint drafted and personally led a half dozen rescue missions in hostile territories that, for obvious reasons of security, were never publicized, let alone admitted to. We had thought Cobra had us in the stinking dungeon for good, so we didn't know what we were going down when we heard that chopper coming in and all the heavy hardware going off like the 4th of July. Then somebody kicked down the door to our cell, and when the smoke cleared, there was Flint with that lopsided grin saying, "Come on, boys, we're going home." So that is Flint. Yeah, again, he came along in the second miniseries, I want to say it was.
Yeah, Revenge of
And
Cobra.
yes, thank you. And yeah, I like Flint. I think out of the, it's hard for me when they, as I said earlier, there's usually Flint and Duke people, one or the other. I like them both. I like Duke a little more. But yeah, Flint, he had personality. Again, very cocky, very, always flirting with Lady J, always putting the moves on her. I know he recently, in the comics that we're covering, he took on those Cobra Eels when they were invading the Fort Wadsworth, and yeah, he stayed behind.
What, am I remembering something with him and the Baroness too?
Really? Really?
Am I remembering that wrong? Like a cartoon episode?
No, you're thinking Steeler. From the
there was
alternate
also
world.
the Game Master episode where he was captured along with Baroness.
Yeah, they were kind of flirty in that episode.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
But yeah, in the Worlds Without End, yeah.
They give Baroness a little slap on the behind.
But no, so I like Flint. Like I say, I like Duke a little better. But yeah, Flint was again, and we see from the file card, this was not a first version character. He came along a little later. They're giving a little more flourish, a little more detail. They got a quote from somebody on there that he rescued at one time, which remains unnamed. So yeah, Flint is a good character. And Kyle, your thoughts on Flint?
So Flint falls into that weird G.I. Joe pyramid of leadership that kind of gets addressed in that episode during the series when they promote Shipwreck, Dial Tone, and Lifeline.
Yeah.
Here's my feeling on Flint in the cartoon version of it. Flint was the leader you wanted to go out and have a beer with afterwards. Duke was kind of the straight-laced guy. Flint was the cool, like he was buddies with everybody, and you were going out on the town with Flint. I like kind of what they did a little bit in the comics too, where you had Flint and Lady J kind of be like a team up a lot with Scarlet and Snake Eyes, where they would like do little big trips together and stuff like that, and that would lead to things. But I like the Flint character. I liked the figure. The only thing I didn't like about the figure was the shotgun weapon he came with, because he had that where it was just right at the small handle there, and it was impossible for him to stay and hold it. But otherwise,
unless you made a custom scabbard that went around his back like I did.
There you go. But no, otherwise, I would put, as far as like, Flint always felt like to me he was like the field leader of the Joe team. When they're out in the field, he would be the one, especially from the cartoon version, that would be taking charge. And I like I said, he just seemed like he was just cool with everybody. There was no issues with Flint, and I like how they handled him. I prefer the cartoon version of Flint, I think, more than I do the comic book version.
And yeah, just looking at, again, yojo.com, which is a great site. He came with a green Riot shotgun I-12 short barrel. Is that gun he had? So, Kevin,
I agree with everything that Kyle said, and I'm not a fan of this picture of him because his iconic bandolier of shotgun shells is a must.
Right.
And when you submit a costume for Flint, you got to have that, and that is his iconic look. Like he's got some weird, looks like rifle strapped to his shoulder there. He's got to have the shotgun. He's known for the shotgun.
Right.
And that's what was one of my favorite weapons of it. But Kyle's right there. I remember him trying to hold it. You're like, God, come on, man. What's going on here? So like I would have him like use other shotguns from other toys or whatever like that. But I like that bandolier look that he had. And Kyle's right. He was always like the leader on the battlefield of, and he was the approachable guy, the guy that you liked, so yeah.
He's like the fun-loving uncle that would take you out and get you a beer, when you're 18. He'd buy a six-pack.
Yeah, or take you to the lady of the night to lose your virginity for the first time.
Yeah, very much so. I needed an uncle like him. No, anyways, Dave.
Yeah, I like Flynn. I like Flynn. I do agree that I was looking at the picture, and because I'm used to him with as you're saying, with the bandolier of the bullets. Because I'm looking at pictures here, and that seems to be in most of the pictures I'm seeing. Yeah, he's a cool character. I know he doesn't technically come in the first lot or whatever, but he's one of the basic characters of G.I. Joe, and I think he's cool. There's a really funny issue I was reading recently where someone snuck into the pit, it's an older comic, and they came across Flint and Lady J just starting to snuggle up together, and it's like, oh, and then like it's so funny. It might be Storm Shadow, someone like that, and
they're so boning. Come on, they're gonna
they're totally no, they're just started to initiate it, and it's just so funny because he's a cool character. Sometimes don't they play him? I'm thinking of that cartoon series G.I. Joe Renegades, and he's chasing them. Where he's kind of not the bad guy, but he's sort of the antagonist because he's always chasing them. But he's a cool character, Flint. Yeah, and I love that beret.
Yeah,
I think it's a great look. Like honestly, one of the main reasons to probably want to join the military to get a beret like that. So there you go.
Very nice. Well, let's see. Was there thoughts on Flint? We'll go ahead and move on to Kyle. You get the next guy.
Okay. Codename Footloose, and his name ain't Kevin Bacon. He's the infantry trooper, file name Andrew D. Myers. SN is 039449036. Primary military specialty infantry. Secondary military specialty special services. He's a basketball coach. Birthplace Gary, Indiana. Let me put two and two together there. Grade E4. Myers was valedictorian of his high school class, captain of the track team, and an Eagle Scout. He was going for his degree in phys ed on a state scholarship when he suddenly dropped out, moved to the coast, and became quite weird for about 3 years. He was standing on the boardwalk in Venice, pondering something cosmic, when the utter pointlessness of his existence hit him between the eyes like a runaway freight train. I think I'll join the army, he said, and promptly did. Took basic and AIT at Fort Benning, graduated jump school and desert training unit, qualified expert in all NATO and Warsaw Pact small arms. Some of the Joes think that Footloose is out there, but all he's trying to do is find himself. He's the all-American boy who got lost on the way to the fair, and he's simply trying to go home any which way he can. Most folks think they know who they are and where they're going. They're dangerous. They're the dangerous ones.
Cool.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. Never liked Footloose. One, we replaced the classic infantry soldier of Grunt, yet more disrespect to the original 13 with this stoner wannabe surfer dude, whatever he what was doing. Didn't like him in the comics. He had an all right appearance in Pyramid of Darkness when they teamed him with Roadblock and Airtight, and it's still one of my favorite Joe scenes in the middle when Airtight and Footloose think they're leading the mission, and here comes Roadblock and saying, "No way are we putting you two losers in charge of this mission." But yeah, no, Footloose was a footnote for me when it comes to the G.I. Joes.
I love it. That's great. That's a great tag.
And yeah, I do like. I'm going to say real quick. I do like that. Yeah, he moved to the coast and became quite weird for 3
Yeah.
years. I mean, he became
Yeah.
stoned out of his gourd for 3 years.
He was dropping a lot of acid.
Something, Kevin. Footloose, fancy free.
Kyle is reading my mind. I'll tell you that right now, dude. You nailed it. Footloose is basically Dusty when you order him off Wish. He sucks. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to take up any more time. We got a lot to get through. Go.
Sure.
Dave,
Uh,
Footloose.
I will say the one thing I did like is I think it's a really cool file card. The description, it builds the story. It's entertaining. I agree. He's a loser of a character, but it's just an entertaining description of him, So points to Larry for that, dressing up what is also, I just can't take him seriously. Sorry, Footloose.
I think I like Footloose a little better than you guys, but yeah, he is a kind of a joke. He's as we talked about, they never say he's stoned, but yeah, you can tell the way he portrayed him in the cartoon that he's stoned. And I don't know, there's something about Footloose that I like him. I don't know if I'd want him on my team. If I was picking a team of Joes for a mission, I probably wouldn't pick Footloose to be on that team. But just watching, I enjoy seeing Footloose and his stoner antics, if you will. So I do like Footloose, but yeah, I wouldn't pick him to be on my Joe team. So
Yeah, I would be putting Footloose in the coastal defense unit and just saying, "You stay
No,
here."
no, don't you know?
the Coastal
Coastal
Outhouse.
Defense that I am the CEO of here in California, we don't want nothing of him.
He came out to California.
You can send him up to Alaska.
Maybe he's hanging out the 501st, and he was getting high with you guys. I don't know.
Maybe he can stay behind and just look after the stash. That might be where he's at his best. Just in the room, just chilling.
Yeah, you don't want to leave him behind. You come back, you want any snacks left, you'll smoke all your pot.
We'll just leave him in the G.I. Joe pit grow house. That's what we'll do.
Moving on from there, I believe this is Kevin.
All right, we've got code name Frostbite, Snowcat Driver, file name Farley S. Seaward, primary military specialty, motor vehicle driver, secondary military specialty, armor, birthplace, Galena, Alaska. Kyle, you're from Fairbanks, Alaska. Where is Galena?
In the middle of nowhere.
But do you know where it is?
Yeah. It's
Is that closer to Santa Claus than you were? I can't tell.
No, it's actually it's probably actually a little more north of Santa Claus than even.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
Galena, Alaska, grade E4. Frostbite was born in a place where summer is a myth and a crowd consists of two people standing on the same acre. Is that accurate, Kyle?
Yeah, pretty
okay.
much.
He worked briefly as a lineman on the pipeline, but found the job unchallenging despite the 40-degree below zero temperatures and hazardous conditions. The Army promised to give him a challenge whenever he wanted one. Frostbite graduated Transportation School, Fort Eustis, and Armored School, Fort Knox. Qualified expert, M16, M1911A1 auto pistol, M2, 50 caliber MG, and M67.62 MMMG. Quote, Frostbite has to be cool. The environment he works in is too unforgiving. If his snowcat throws a piston, he's got to step out into weather that'll freeze his hex wrench to bare skin in 5 seconds and carry through a repair job that would be taxing under ideal condition. He can't afford to panic, not if he wants to stay alive. I forgot who this guy was. I figured like, hey, snow job needs a buddy. Let's throw him another snowy dude with a cool weapon or a cool vehicle. I do remember the Snowcat, I think. But I gotta tell you, I got nothing on this guy. I don't even remember him in any cartoons. If it was, I don't remember him in the comics. He just doesn't stand out for me. He's from Alaska. That's all I got.
Dave.
Well, I mean, I don't know him, but I will say he's got a cool design. And again, interesting file card. And I mean, he's cool looking, but I don't actually know. I'm more familiar with Snowjob, who's actually cool.
Yeah.
And Kyle, so you come from Alaska, right? Really?
Yes.
That's cool, man.
In more ways
to
than
go there
one.
one day.
Kyle is a descendant of vampires that came over from ancient Russia, and
Wow.
where there's nights that last 30 days.
And
That
do you still live there, Kyle?
28 days
Or-
later is a documentary film, ladies and gentlemen.
And are you broadcasting from Alaska right now, or have you?
No,
moved
wait,
on?
that's 30 Days of Night. That's the movie.
Yeah, 30
right,
days
Kyle?
a night. That's right. 30 days.
Yeah.
Too many. So I am currently in Florida because I needed to thaw out after living in Alaska and being born there for 20 and lived there for 20 years. So
Yeah. Well, as an Aussie, that's just so fascinating to me. Yeah, and I mean, he gets some points for coming from Alaska because I think it seems like a pretty cool place. But other than that, I've got no idea who he is. Sorry.
So I guess that me to defend whatever his name is. I forget at this point.
Frostbite.
Yeah, I don't care. No, no, like you guys have said, yeah. I mean, the coolest thing about him is he's from Alaska. He takes at this point probably third place after Snowjob and Frostbite.
he is Frostbite. You mean Iceberg?
He is
Iceberg. Sorry about that. Thank you. Wow.
Iceberg.
He gets third place after Snowjob and then Iceberg. I think Frostbite mainly showed up in crowd scenes, or if they needed someone for the snow, to accompany, like Kevin said, to accompany Snowjob.
Yeah.
Very forgettable. Kyle.
Okay, so
very good at
the character himself is a forgettable character, but he drove one of the coolest Joe vehicles ever made.
Yes.
The Snowcat design is outstanding. And on the toy side, one of the coolest things about the figure, it was one of the first vehicle drivers that actually came with his own weapon. He had this really cool M16 with like the Starlight spots scope on it, and it was a really cool weapon for a vehicle driver, and it kind of started the trend of them finally putting weapons with vehicle drivers. And so there's that. But yeah, I mean, as far as just the character itself, didn't really do much in the comics or in the cartoon show. But like I said, driver of one of the best Joe vehicles of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the coolest thing about him is his vehicle. Actually,
I'm looking at the Snowcat now on Google. That is a cool vehicle. Yeah, it looks awesome. And we've got to remember that some of these characters, like, they're sort of the vehicle's the star, and then the character kind of slots in. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
The Snowcat's a cool vehicle. Someone's got to drive it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And like I said, no one really did anything with him, so I think that's part of where Snowjob got some good moments. Iceberg got some good moments.
Yeah.
Did Iceberg get good
Frostbite.
moments? Oh, we'll talk
What's
about
Snowjob
that.
does. Look, the fact
More
is,
than
I
Frostbite.
know who Snowjob is. I know who Snowjob is, so he must have had some good moments for a filthy casual like me to know who he is. You know.
Dave, you're up next.
Okay, we've got Grunt, infantry trooper, file name Robert W. Graves, primary military specialty infantry, secondary military specialty small arms armorer, artillery coordinator, birthplace Columbus, Ohio, grade SP-4. Familiar with all NATO and Warsaw Pact small arms as well as domestic civilian arms. Graduated advanced infantry training. Finished in the top 10 of his class. Qualified expert M14, M16, M19, 11, A1 auto pistol. Grunt is a highly motivated, systematic individual. He's a stand-up guy who doesn't blow his cool in a firefight. For me, he's one of the foundations of G.I. Joe. I'm assuming he came out in the beginning. Just a cool character. And like, I think we've mentioned, the original guys that came out, I know were much more skewed more closely to military than military fantasy. And I think we wouldn't have G.I. Joe without guys like Grunt, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Seriously. He's a 10 out of 10 in my books.
Yeah, I like Grunt. I think he may be one of the ones from that Kyle mentioned, the disrespect for the original 13. I think he may be one of the ones that slide past that.
Mm-hmm.
I know Larry did a bit more with him. I think they did a little more in the show. Again, even though he's got his character, the toy looks like an older man for the figure. Looks like he's got a receding hairline that starts back here, and But yeah, no, I like Grunt. Yeah, they did a little more with him in the comics and I think the cartoon. And so he's one of the original 13 that stands out and survived a little better than some of the others did. So I do like Grunt. He is a great character. And again, mainly it was what Larry did with him in the comic, I think. So,
Yeah.
Kyle?
Grunt is the prototypical GI Joe. He's the basic military guy. I just picked up his classified figure the other day. It's a great figure. In the comics, he had some great moments in the comics. There was an issue in the comics where he and Hawk infiltrate this Cobra training facility, and the whole time they're trying to not show up everybody else because they don't want to give themselves away. Grunt, however, in the cartoon, that's a little different matter because Grunt is one of those Joes that to this day is off fighting in some alternate dimension in the G.I. Joe cartoon landscape, as he was one of the ones who stayed in that dimension to help reform G.I. Joe.
Yep.
And, that is something that it still kind of sticks to my craw to this day that they never found a way to revisit that. But it was basically a way to write out, oh, well, we're bringing in the new toys. Let's get rid of these old characters. So that's kind of how that worked. But you talk G.I. Joe, you're talking Grunt, the original infantry trooper. Screw you, Footloose. This is the man. This is the OG right here.
And I guess
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say they should do a follow-up story to that thing with the alternate dimension. Like it's set for a follow-up,
Oh yeah, definitely. And I believe there's one of the G.I. Joe stories from Kindle Worlds or whatever that someone wrote, kind of like a fan story a fan fiction story that kind of followed up on that. I haven't read it. I've got a copy to read. I haven't gotten that far yet though. I need to get to that. But yeah, no, that was one thing. Like Kyle, I was disappointed the cartoon didn't follow up more on that But again, I mean, I guess it'd be better to send him away to another universe instead of killing him off to make room for the new Joes.
Well, you'd be killing off America. Let's face it. You know what I mean?
And I know in the comic, Larry sent him. I think he sent him away he went back to school or something like that in the comic, if I'm not mistaken. He quit the Joes.
Yes, I remember
back to
that.
school.
Yeah, you're right.
Had a whole storyline there.
He retired.
Yeah, Kevin, thoughts on Grunt?
Grunt is the quintessential G.I. Joe. He's front and center of G.I. Joe #1 jumping off that tank on the issue #1. He has a special place in my heart. And I'll tell you why. This is the first G.I. Joe figure that I ever got when that first series came out of the original 13. I remember, I think it was my grandmother. I can't remember exactly who was with me, but they said you can get one of these. And I wanted one that looked like an army man, because I used to play the little green army man, right? And plus, Grunt is what you referred to as American foot soldiers for as long as the term was around. That's where he gets his name. And the reason why he looks old is because he is old. He's older than everyone else. He's been fighting more than a lot of these other guys, And, I remember the original figure. It was the straight arm, not the, the swivel arm battle grip, But, and he uses weapons, that you like, dude probably fought in Nam. He probably fought in the Korean War, He probably wanted to fight, in World War II, but he was too young.
And no disrespect when I said he looked older. Just in the comic, he seemed like he may have been younger, or at least, and that's the appearance I got.
And Kyle is right. He is the original infantry trooper. You, Footloose. Come on,
Footloose.
Give the respect. This is the classic G.I. Joe right here.
Yes,
this is him. This is Conrad Hauser or whatever that he looks up to. The original. This is his hero. This is the original OG Joe, and he deserves the respect that he gets. And I love the fact that his weapons and his outfit and what he wears epitomizes that as well.
Yes.
And you make a great point, Kevin. Like back in my childhood, I remember I had the green army soldiers. Yep. And we fought many battles with guys like Grunt, and just like the Johnny Cash song "Ragged Old Flag," he went to Korea, went to Vietnam. He went where he was sent by Uncle Sam. That is Grunt. That is Grunt. So
yeah. So I think that's everybody for Grunt. So we'll move on to the next one. The next one up, I guess that's me, Gung Ho. He's a Marine. File name Lafitte.
Etienne.
Etienne. Etienne.
I guess
Lafitte.
Etienne. Thank you. I'm terrible with names, so thank you for helping me with that. Primary military specialty, Recondo. Secondary military specialty, jungle warfare training instructor. Birthplace, Fer de Lance, Louisiana. Grade E7, a sergeant. Born into a large back swamp Cajun clan, Gung Ho moved to New Orleans and won a reputation as a bare knuckle brawler and knife fighter to be reckoned with. Joined the Marines at 18, graduated top of class from boot camp at Parris Island, attended airborne school, recondo school, and Marine Ordnance School, qualified expert, all NATO infantry small arms, and most Warsaw Pact infantry weapons, XM76 grenade launcher. Zap says, all Marines are crazy, but Gung Ho was the hairiest, scariest, craziest jarhead that ever scratched, kicked, and bit his way out of that hole in the swamp they call Parris Island. Yeah, Gung Ho, I like him. He's a great character. I know his second figure came out in the Dress Blues, which was not so much good as far as for fighting, but still had a decent look for him. It gave you, so you had the original look of Gung Ho, plus you got him in the Dress Blues. Very nice. He had some good moments in the cartoon, the comic. All around great character. I know in the Adventures Continue, the role playing game I was doing, in there, Duke gets killed. Spoilers, and Gung Ho takes over.
Yeah.
In the role playing game that we were doing. So yeah, I like Gung Ho. He's a great character. I had some great moments. He's just all around. Yeah, I love that he's walks around with no shirt on. He's got his camouflage pants and a vest with a couple grenades on it, and his hat. He's like, I don't need no damn shirt. So, hi-ho.
Okay, first of all, I have to address the elephant in the room. This drawing of Gung Ho is incomplete. You don't have the chest tattoo. That's a classic thing of that figure.
Yes,
but I think Gung Ho is also one of the most important G.I. Joe characters ever, because he was the first Joe that really started having a different look and a little bit more personality. Wasn't just even though he was military, they gave him a little bit more. They gave him a bit of a unique look, and obviously he was very bombastic in the cartoon as well, and was one of the first Joes, I think, to really get a lot of shine in both the cartoon and the comic. And I think that Gung Ho is one of those figures and characters that reflects the change in G.I. Joe from when it originally came out to what it started really turning into as its popularity increased. And I think that it's one of the key figures. And I know very few people who didn't own a Gung Ho figure at some point.
Yeah, he was the second series 2 of figures in '83, and you had Airborne, Doc, Snow Job, Torpedo, and Tripwire as far as Joes in that line. And yeah, he was the most distinct in that line. And yeah, like I said, he's kind of the one that encouraged or helped, I guess, bring out the individuality of the Joes that we would eventually get. So. Good call.
I mean, I go back to the Mass Device, and he kind of felt like the third Joe behind Duke and Scarlet. He really did.
No, you're not wrong.
No, I agree.
Good thoughts on that. Very good. So I'm glad Kevin drug you along. It's very nice.
He knows stuff.
Kevin,
I'm proud of him.
He knows things. In fact, you know what? I think I'm going to replace Kevin with Kyle from future shows.
You're still keeping the K factor in, so it's all good.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm joking. I couldn't get rid of it. I love Kevin's cosplays. He's fantastic. Kevin, thoughts on Gung Ho?
Gung Ho's great. I love Gung Ho, but I was always curious about his weapon. He had that cool grenade launcher weapon.
Mm-hmm, right.
It had that little built-on strap, which is cool. So you could like put it over his shoulder while I was holding another gun. And I remember I was wondering I was trying to remember his weapon, the grenade launcher, how it would work. I remember watching some war movies, and then of course seeing it in a movie like Dogs of War, and then like Predator, and all these other movies that use these cool grenade launchers and stuff. I just thought that was cool. That was his main weapon. And you guys are right. He had this individuality, and he was funny. He had a great personality. I loved him in both the comics and the cartoons, and his figure just looked really cool. I love Gung Ho.
And I do like in one of the cartoons, I'm sure Kyle remember which one it was, where they were going after. It was where they're going after the Joe's families.
Yes,
and I believe it was Gung Ho's family. They went after all the other Joes. They captured, Shipwreck's family and Scarlet's brothers and all that. And after that plan failed, like, let's go after Gung Ho's family.
Mhm.
And
Oops.
Big mistake.
that was fantastic. Yes. Dave, are you familiar with Gung Ho?
I'm super familiar, and in fact, Gung Ho is pretty much he's my favorite Joe of all time is Spirit, but Gung Ho is right there. I think Gung Ho is awesome. He's like Freddie Mercury's like macho dream of a military man. And can I just say, this picture's missing a tattoo, but Gung Ho is a 10 out of 10. And also, can I say, I've got a lot of respect for knife fighters because, like, knife fighting has got to be one of the toughest things to do. If you're in the ring with a fucking knife, against another guy, that's where it gets real. And yeah,
That's coming from an Australian.
I think Gung Ho, he might actually, like, on this wave of emotion I'm on right now, he might be my number one. So he's a 10 out of 10, and I've definitely got the classified. He was like in my first wave of buying classified. He was. I bought them on that first lot. He's great. He's a great figure, and yeah, God bless Gung Ho.
Yeah, I think they had him in the regular box, and then they had him on the card back. I think I've got them both. I was looking around. He's probably boxed up right now because I got so much damn stuff. But yeah, they did release him on. I think he came in as a regular classified figure, and then they released him more recently as on the card back. In fact, I bought that at Walmart. It took me a while to find it because I went in to buy it, and I'm like, well, I'll wait and get it next time. And then they didn't have them, and it took me forever to find them again. So
I'd like a Gung Ho mini series of his origin. You know how like Image are doing they're doing Duke and building it in. Give me a Gung Ho like a 5-parter. Bring us back to the knife fights. Bring us back to the knife fights. We want to see more of that shit.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool because it's a Louisiana a native there, and there's a big French contingency in Louisiana because the French had settled there, and so and there's a certain type of dialect in English that is spoken there. That is really
take
cool.
us to the night where he gets the tattoo. Jesus,
yeah,
that must have been a wild night. That must have been a wild night. He got the big chest tattoo. Seriously,
very much so.
Gung Ho's one of the old timers, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, very nice. Let's move on to the next one. Kyle.
Apparently, I am getting all the Joe Commanders in this episode. So,
screw you, Kyle.
Yeah, the GI Joe Commander, file name Clayton M. Abernathy, Prime Military Specialty Artillery, Second Military Specialty Radar, Birthplace General, Colorado, Grade Brigadier General, General Hawk. Hawk was the original field commander of the Joe team before he got his General Star and was booted upstairs to honcho the entire GI Joe operation. He's a West Point graduate and has a list of special education credits as long as his arm, but he still managed to get the body of his experience out there where it counts on the battlefield. Hawk's the type of commander who goes out there and gets shot at like everybody else. Troops respect that. They know he won't ask them to do anything he isn't willing to do himself, and that's why they are willing to do anything Hawk tells them. I'm sorry, gentlemen, for my money, this is the true G.I. Joe commander, whether it's the comic books or when they finally introduced him based off of the second generation Hawk figure that they created with the toy line with the premiere of the Rise Serpentor Arise miniseries. He just came over and Hawk took things over like only Hawk can take things over. And we are also talking about the greatest transformation of G.I. Joe figures, going from the most generic G.I. Joe figure that came with the mobile missile system to the very cool General Hawk figure with the jacket, the camouflage pants like we see him here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Hawk when he came into this cartoon series with the times when Serpentor arrived, he just took charge. Again, I'm going to go back to the episode where they promoted Dial Tone, Lifeline, and Shipwreck, and G.I. Joe's a mess until Hawk comes in and immediately straightens things out, and crap gets done and taken care of. And it's Hawk. It's always been Hawk. It always will be Hawk. And like I said, his new classified figure is gorgeous.
Yes.
So you like Hawk?
He gets my vote for G.I. Joe. He is the perennial G.I. Joe leader, without a doubt.
Gotcha.
Kevin, so do you like Hawk as much as your
Yeah,
partner?
Hawk is the OG leader, and I always got kind of bummed that he got bumped up to like the desk job type of thing, and I
Right.
understand, that happens and stuff. But yeah, he gets my respect, and he always looked cool, especially with that newer version that Kyle was talking about. And he is the general, and I just Hawk is just one of the coolest OG leaders.
You're not wrong. And Dave, thoughts on
Yeah,
Hawk?
I like Hawk a lot. I'm doing a read through of the comics. I'm up to about issue 73. Yeah, I mean, Hawk is also the liaison who has to bear the brunt of the feedback from like Washington, and you know what I mean. Like, so he's essential and he's a cool character. And I mean, what's not to like about Hawk? And who played him in the was it Bruce Willis who played him in the movie?
No, Bruce Willis didn't play
No.
General Hawk. He played Joel Colton.
He
Oh,
was
right,
the original Joe.
Yeah, okay. Who played Hawk? Was it Hawk in them? I don't remember.
They never put Hawk in either of the films.
No, yes, the
Weird.
first one. It was what's his name? Married to
Quaid.
yeah, Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. There you
was
are.
Hawk. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and
And
you know what?
and he said the famous line, "Knowing is half the battle." I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's actually good, really good casting, because that was I had a vague memory that it was him. Now, yeah, I think he's essential in the Joe hierarchy, and you've got to respect Hawk for sure. I mean, he's massive, really, when you think about it.
Oh yeah.
Like, in terms of his importance, it's easy to kind of, because other guys are doing more stuff on the battlefield, but he's also managing it all and having to bear the brunt of the stuff with Washington, who are always like hiring and firing them and cutting their funding. He's a great character.
Yeah, I do like Hawk. I like the cartoon look a little better because he gave him the brown hair. I have problems sometimes getting him and Duke confused in the comic. Sometimes depends what they're wearing.
Me too, man.
They have that similar blonde hair, blue-eyed look, but like Kyle said, yeah, Hawk is, and like Kevin, Hawk is the GI Joe leader. He's very much in the comic book. He was always there in charge and leading the missions if need be, and taking names and kicking ass. And then they brought him along in the cartoon finally, and like Kyle said, he just came in and cleaned things up, and a great character. Yeah, I love Hawk, the ultimate GI Joe leader, definitely. And I like that he was played by Dennis Quaid, great actor, playing a great character. One of the positives I can say about that movie. But yeah, it was a great one. Moving on to the next one, unless anyone has their thoughts on Hawk. Kevin, this would be yours.
Yes. Code name Heavy Metal. MBT Mauler driver. File name Sherman Guderian. Sherman, like maybe after the Sherman tank. See? Primary military specialty, armor. Second military specialty, finance. Birthplace, Brooklyn, New York. Grade E4. There are sections of Brooklyn that are more inaccessible to outsiders than the mountains of Transylvania. In Heavy Metal's old neighborhood, a trip to Manhattan, just across the East Rivers, was considered a major expedition and inspiring to the middle class and daydreaming pure and simple. Heavy Metal enlisted to go to finance school, his ultimate goal being to become a CPA. But one day in Fort Belvoir, he watched a column of tanks roll by, and he was never the same again. He put in for a transfer to armor that same day, qualified expert M16, M1911A1, M250 Cal, MG, and M60 MG. Quote, Heavy Metal likes order. When a page-long column of figures adds up correctly, that's order. When a long column of tanks line up to face the enemy, that's order on another scale. Many people find comfort in order and discipline. Mathematics reduces the complexities of the world to manageable sums. Heavy Metal likes tanks. They are immutable statements in iron. That is Heavy Metal. I love Heavy Metal. I love his name too. He's going to be he's going to be a guest on the Hair Metal podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And a buddy of mine in the Southern Command, Georgia, does a great cosplay of Heavy Metal. I don't know if he's gotten a bunch of love. I can't remember him specifically in scenes or cartoons or the comics. But I thought that the vehicles was pretty badass. So there you go. I love Heavy Metal.
Dave.
Yeah, Heavy Metal's great. Great file card, and I can only imagine this guy must have driven some of the coolest vehicles, like both in terms of whatever they matched him with, and then in terms of what people would have put him in, because he's a tank guy. And yeah, like just a great character, Heavy Metal, and I like his name, Heavy Metal, as well. And yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, these are the kind of guys that they're 9 out of 10s. They go straight into the all-time list. A guy like Heavy Metal.
Yeah, I like Heavy Metal. I think he may have got a few appearances here and there. He didn't get a lot of love in the comic or cartoon, but he would show up occasionally. I was just looking at yojo.com on Heavy Metal, and apparently in '89 they re-released him, but they changed his name to Rampage. And then in 2009 they renamed him to Speed Metal.
Speed Metal. Wow.
So apparently those are all based on Heavy Metal. And
surprised it wasn't rap metal or new metal.
New metal, yeah. But metal. Yeah.
I think one of the vehicles or one of the characters last issue or last time they had a reference to Rampage.
Yeah, I remember that.
One of the vehicles called the Rampage. And yeah, so I find it funny that they reference one of the vehicles to Rampage, and then eventually Heavy Metal becomes a character called Rampage.
I've got a question, and this we all know that I didn't collect the toys in the 80s. When you bought the tank and stuff, did it come with a figure? Or not?
Most of them did.
Yeah.
Right,
except for maybe the small ones. Yeah, these larger tanks and larger vehicles.
But these guys had names, like they're the guys in this. Is that right?
Yeah,
like,
you would see that. You would see the picture of the vehicle, and then you'd see a little like plastic cutout, and you could actually see the figure right next to it. the vehicles usually always came with their drivers or pilots.
That marketing is just so on point. And it's just so perfect. And I'm surprised they don't do it these days, you know.
And then on the back, they would have their own file card that you could cut out of the back. And then, whenever you got the toys with the characters, they were worth more flag points, to redeem for other cool mail away toys.
So what did he come with? Was it just a big tank?
Yeah.
Smaller.
Right.
Okay. One of the best Joe tanks ever made.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's what I thought. He must have had one of the greatest ones. Yeah, no, great character. And I just love that marketing sort of scheme where you pack the cool tank with a figure,
The Mauler was like the next tank after the Mobat, and it was the more realistic one. It looks like something you would see at a Desert Storm, basically, because it had that desert color to it. And it was a more realistic looking.
I'm looking at it right now. It looks awesome.
Tank.
It looks absolutely awesome.
Yeah. That's right. More what where like the Mobat was more based off like the Sherman tanks, the older tanks.
Yeah.
The Mauler was the larger one. It was a really cool tank.
And could you put him? I'm looking at it. Could you put him inside it?
Yeah. Usually it was on top, not inside. Like those didn't open up inside, if I remember correctly. There's a spot.
Mauler you could.
Was there? There's a seat in the front, and then there was the seat at the top, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, looking at these pictures, I mean, it's cool. Yeah. Like, do any of you guys still have that tank and all that stuff?
No, I don't.
I wish I did.
The only problem with that toy though was that the extension on the cannon barrel was a lighter plastic, and sometimes it would bend a little bit, so you had to be careful with it. And the older the toy got, you would kind of see it kind of go.
Yeah. Do you think at any point that Classified would put something like that out, or would it be too big?
It would be a HasLab. If they did his tank, they'd have to do
like the his tank. But I mean, it
they
just
might
feels
do it
like
eventually.
if they did a his tank, they might do a Mauler or something, because it is a cool looking tank.
It is.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I believe they've announced, if I'm not mistaken, I think they've announced the Ferret for the Classified as a regular vehicle, but yeah, something this size would definitely be a HasLab.
Wow.
Which we've talked about in the past that I've got issues with. But anyways, yes, Kyle.
The interesting story, I mean, Heavy Metal kind of falls in the Frostbite as far as character development. He was just with that,
right.
Didn't really get much. The reason the name change was because of Heavy Metal Magazine.
I
Oh,
was
There
wondering
was a
about that. Yeah.
copyright issue there. And
Yep.
so that is why the name ended up getting changed.
right.
Yep.
Wow.
And if
that
you
may be
don't
why-
know what Heavy Metal Magazine is, it was the Adult Illustrated magazine. Started out in 1977 monthly, and it showcased a lot of upcoming great artists. And it was made for adults. There was violence and there was nudity in it. And my dad used to collect it and hide it underneath his seat on the couch. And I would read it. And that was the first time I saw bare boobies.
I was going to say, so boobies. Yeah, there was a movie, wasn't there, in the early 80s?
Yes.
80,
Yeah.
Heavy Metal.
81, and it was an amalgamation of several stories that were very popular in the magazine that they did for the movie in 81. They put them together. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, great movie too. Yeah, for what it was. I mean, it was definitely worth. And Kyle, any other thoughts on Heavy Metal?
Like I said, he kind of falls in the frostbite for me, where it's like,
Yeah.
he really didn't develop him. It's one of the greatest Joe toys ever made, and that made me with him as the pilot. That's why he stands out. And yeah, I mean, this was this at this point they were hitting on all cylinders on what they were creating for GI Joe, and
Mhm.
you know, he will go down in infamy as the pilot of the Mauler, and those two will be infinitely tied together throughout GI Joe history.
Oh yeah, very much so. I believe Dave's up next, if I'm not mistaken.
Code
Next
name
one.
Iceberg. Snowtrooper. File name Clinton L. Nash. Primary military specialty infantry. Secondary military specialty cold weather survival instructor. Birthplace Brownsville, Texas. Grade E5. Iceberg hates hot weather. In Brownsville in the summer, you can spit on the sidewalk and watch it sizzle. While other kids saved up for bicycles, Iceberg saved up for an air conditioner. When he was old enough to enlist, he signed up and asked for duty in Alaska. He had found his element, qualified expert M16A2, M79, M60, and M1911A1. We have plenty of cold weather specialists that can stand the cold well enough, but very few that like it. Iceberg's just not happy until the mercury dips below zero. This is not to say he's unaware of the dangers of cold weather or that he's impervious to the lethal effects of hypothermia. Rather, his love of ultra-cold climates has forced him to learn every aspect of Arctic survival. Severe reduction of body temperature. Yeah, look, I don't know the character at all. It's a cool description. I do like a cold weather specialist. I'd have a cold weather team. I'd have him, Snow Job. Would probably be my guys. I like that he's got a knife tucked away there onto his leg. It's a cool description. I'm not familiar with the character myself. Has he had a lot of love over the years, guys? I don't know.
Yeah, he came in the second wave for the cartoon, the second season.
Yeah,
and he
I
got
thought
some.
was he second or third season?
Well, the original cartoon, there was the 2 miniseries, and then there was the first season.
Okay,
and
you're
then there was
right.
the second
you're right.
season. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
get confused sometimes. It seems like there went more seasons, but there was a lot of episodes. But so yeah, he was in the second season when they did the Rise Sprinter Rise.
yep.
Some only had the 2 full seasons of the show,
Mhm,
and then it switched
yeah.
over to DIC, or DIC, or however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, I like Iceberg. Yeah, he's second place after, as I said earlier, Snow Job. He got a little more love in the cartoon, and some of the comic, I don't think he got as much. Snow Job in the comic got more love for all the snow guys, I think, rightly so. But yeah, I do like Iceberg. He's a good character. I know he came in the second season of the cartoon, and yeah, he was just out of the snow guys. Yeah, he's my second choice. So, Kyle.
If we're going to talk about Iceberg, we must talk about the fact the man survived being transmuted into a killer whale.
I was thinking that. It was my friend that you mentioned that.
I'm glad you remember that, Kyle, because I don't. I'm done.
That was one of the most bizarre episodes of G.I. Joe of all time. I actually like the Iceberg figure. I love the weapon he came with because it was like an Arctic white gun. It was.
And to piggyback off, since you mentioned it, Kyle, I'll piggyback off that real quick. And yeah, people complain that G.I. Joe the movie was too far fetched, and that was where they drew the line.
Right.
Yeah, in the second season, yeah, Iceberg turned into a freaking killer whale. So don't tell me that the Cobra Law was too much. I mean,
God, that's
I'm sorry.
bad.
Go ahead, continue.
No, I don't know what else to say after the man survived being turned into a killer whale. I mean, that would if I'm Iceberg's Joe agent, I'm having a serious conversation. This is my one spotlight episode of the cartoon, and you turn me into a freaking killer whale. I need a new agent at that point.
Yeah, that's the one thing that stands out about. Yeah, I like Iceberg. That's the one thing that stands out. Is I remember him turning into the whale nymphs.
That's hilarious. Did he turn back?
Yeah, they turned him back.
They did turn him back, but yeah, that was a bizarre, one of the most bizarre episodes of GI Joe, and there were some bizarre episodes of GI Joe towards the end.
That is crazy. That is nuts.
And real quick, before I go to Kevin, Heinz Koch joined us in the chat. He says, "Hey, gentlemen, hey Heinz, glad you could join us." So we're on Iceberg, and Kevin's up. Kevin, thoughts on Iceberg?
I grew up in sunny Southern California. I didn't see snow till I was 27. I didn't buy any of the snow guys. I didn't buy the snow toys. I think I ended up with a snow cat later or something. I can't remember, but I don't remember this guy, and I forgot that it was him in the cartoon that got turned into a whale. Because even though I own the movie, it's just weird, man. It's just weird, and the snow guys just didn't mix with my guys playing out in the sun, man. I didn't get them. I didn't care for them, and I don't remember Iceberg at all. I'm glad Kyle did. That was like. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, I could care less.
Huh. Well, heck with you then. No, Heinz, you're out there listening. Did you remember Iceberg? Yeah, no, I do remember Iceberg. I liked him. I thought not as good as Snow Job. He didn't get as much love as Snow Job did, but yeah, he comes in second place, I say, for the ice characters. And yeah, I mean California myself. I mean, I'd go to growing up. In the wintertime we'd go up to the hills, the mountains. It's about an hour, 2 hours away from where I'm at, and go to the snow every winter. So I would see snow sooner than Kevin did, but
you just living the dream as a kid, Aaron. You go to California, then you roll up to the snow on the mountains. Like Jesus Christ! Like you got your G.I. Joe figures. Like just loving life.
But moving on. So we had Iceberg. Let me get back to my page here. So I guess the next one comes to me.
Lady J.
Next one up, Lady J. Covert Operations. File name, Hart-Burnett Allison R. Primary military specialty, intelligence. Secondary military specialty, personal clerk. Birthplace, Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. Grade E4. Lady J graduated from Bryn Mawr. I'm probably mispronouncing that. And did her graduate work at Trinity College in Dublin, where she acquired the faint Gaelic lilt that adorns her speech. An accomplished actress and mime, as well as a studied linguist, she can easily pass as native in France, Italy, Poland, Russia, Germany, Afghanistan, Spain, and Portugal. Airborne Ranger qualified, graduated intelligence school, Fort Holabird, qualified expert, M16, M1911A1, and reflex crossbow. Lady J doesn't go in for that phony wig and rubber mask kind of disguise that those jokers on Mission Impossible. She becomes the subject. Body language, subtle gesture, correct shading of dialect, the right look in the eye. Cloaked and sandaled, she can squat down with a basket of oranges in a Middle Eastern marketplace and blend in perfectly. Lady J, she's kind of the replacement for Scarlet, I guess. The other female Joe that had prominence. Again, I do have, if you can see if we're up on my shelf up there, I've got underneath that great poster, this picture someone sent me. I've got the classified, and then the retro Scarlet, and then Lady J, and then also the Super 7.
Mm-hmm.
Lady J. So I've got a couple of Lady J's up there. I like her, a great character. I like, she always has that javelin that she can switch out the tips on if need be, or different tips for that, kind of like a Green Arrow type weapon. fantastic. I love Lady J. Kyle, thoughts on Lady J?
I'm gonna bring the heat here because, in my opinion, Lady J is the predominant female GI Joe character when you're talking the GI Joe cartoon. She was in more episodes than
Yes.
Scarlet. She had
Yep.
much more focus than Scarlet ever did in the original GI Joe cartoon. In the comics, Scarlet wins, but if you're going with the cartoon, it's Lady J. I never actually had the Lady J figure. It was one of those ones I never could find on the shelves for whatever reason. And I know it's a female character; they were shortchanged in the cases, but
Right.
this was a character that I think was much more fleshed out and well written in the cartoon than actually by Larry Hama in the comic. In my opinion, I think she took a back seat to Scarlet. She had some good stories, but and if you're going to get my honest opinion, and Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Lady J in the backseat with Ace in that classic airplane duel issue of GI Joe.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's probably how I remember her. The story I remember her most from the comics, or with the cartoon. There's countless stories with Lady J, and like I said, I think for a lot of people, she is as far as female Joe characters, she's the defining one without any question.
Yeah, she was introduced in the second miniseries, and I don't know why, but yeah, the writers tended to take to her more than they did Scarlet. So yeah, she was very prominent in the cartoon. Kevin?
Yeah, I agree with Kyle. Definitely got. She is the iconic Lady Joe, especially in the cartoon series. Scarlet gets the respect because she's the OG, and she will always be the OG. But I think that Lady J, when it came to the cartoon, she was front and center as the lead lady, and especially when she teamed up with Flint, and they always kind of flirted back and forth. But they made a good team too, which was kind of fun to watch them do things. And I always liked that javelin that she had. I just thought that was a cool weapon, whether it was used by man or women. The fact that they had different tips and that she knew how to use it. And it's also one of those great costumes in the Finest Costume Group that when we get a lot of women into the Finest, that this is kind of like, this is the go-to one if you don't do Scarlet. And I've seen many different versions of it, and they all look great. And I've seen different versions of the javelin, and she just looks cool. I always thought that she looked cool with the shorter red hair. And I don't remember the actress that does her voice, but her voice is fantastic in the cartoon series. Definitely one of the best G.I. Joe characters overall as well.
Very much so. And Dave, any thoughts on?
First up, she's a great character, but I do want to say, for me, Scarlet is always number one. But Lady J is an excellent character. And it's almost unfair that, because there's less female characters, they inevitably, it's like think of all the guy G.I. Joe characters. There's literally hundreds, and it's not like you're always, not every single one of them is in a dogfight with each other. Whereas Lady J, Scarlet, the popularity, for me, Lady J is a great character. She works well with Flint. She's a fantastic character. She's one of the strongest characters they have. To me, Scarlet is the premier female, but Lady J is cool in her own way. And it's interesting that they go into so much stuff about the disguises and stuff. I think of her with Flint, working as a team, not just romantically, but also as a team, like an action team. And she's cool. I must admit, I'm sorry, Lady J, I've not bought your classified. I go in on Scarlet for some reason. I just always have liked Scarlet. Probably because more of the comics I read, Scarlet is kind of front and center. But Lady J is a cool character. And I'd love to know, I at least listening to other podcasts, I hear that Lady J is a bit of a peg warmer these days. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's correct.
Yeah. I'd like to know how popular she was. I'd like sort of a sales chart breakdown of how she sold over, the decades kind of thing. But she's a cool character. I mean, don't get me wrong. She's Lady J. Respect.
Yeah, see, at my local Walmart, I don't have a lot of Joes, but yeah, there's quite a bit of the Baroness and the Lady J
Oh,
on the
Baroness is
hardback.
my all-time Baroness for me.
It's sitting on the
Don't
shelves.
even
I
get
don't
me
know.
started. Don't even get me
Dave,
started on
I listening
Baroness.
to that last podcast. I got you on Baroness. I know how you feel.
Yeah, Baroness is fucking fantastic, and like, yeah. So, but Lady J is cool. You know what I mean? Like, she's cool.
Yeah.
And respect to her. Now, guys, unfortunately, I have to go on a work call, so I'm going to have to farewell you. I'm sorry, but like, I just have
Sorry you have to leave, but glad you got to join us for a little bit there, Dave.
Appreciate you, Dave.
Yeah, well,
Appreciate it, Dave.
I really enjoyed this, guys, and continue on, and I look forward to seeing the rest. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
See you guys.
And
Bye.
Kevin, yeah, later, sir. In the cartoon, she was voiced by Mary McDonald Lewis.
Gotcha. Very cool.
So I had to look that up real quick. So that was Lady J. So moving on to the next one. This one falls to, I'm sorry, I lost track. Who is this one now?
I think it's on me.
You? Yeah,
Code name Leatherneck, the Marine. File name Wendell A. Metzger. Primary military specialty, infantry. Secondary military specialty, drill sergeant. Birthplace, Stromsburg, Nebraska. Grade gunnery sergeant. Leatherneck was the hardest gunny that ever slogged through the mud of Camp Lejeune. Before that, he was the toughest drill sergeant on Parris Island. Before that, he was the roughest tech sergeant of the 1st Recon BN in Vietnam. Before that, he was the meanest corporal in Gitmo. Civilian badness just doesn't count. He is uncouth, opinionated, and overbearing, and he has no patience at all with the indecisive, the lazy, and the dishonest. Not a man you can like, but one you can trust. Recon Battalion. Okay, Leatherneck. Definitely much more played in the cartoon than he ever was in the comic. Obviously, the banter and rivalry between him and Wetsuit in the cartoon is of G.I. Joe fame. They really just didn't do a lot with him in the comic. He was in a few issues, but nothing really spectacular. His star was in the cartoon. Like I said, I wasn't a huge fan, but it wasn't anything particular with the character. I just kind of felt like I felt like they kind of played him a little dumbed down too than what he should have been in the cartoon.
They did a lot
comparison. But otherwise, I mean, he's a solid Joe. I mean, he's actually going back to kind of that prototypical military Joe later on in the G.I. Joe lifespan.
Right. Kevin.
I always liked Leatherneck. I've always appreciated the term Leatherneck because I've heard that before. And the figure to me was, I thought, very cool because he had that cool weapon. He had the M16 with the, is it M03 grenade launcher underneath the barrel. And it was like a specific like gray color of the weapon, if I remember correctly. And that to me was a realistic weapon, and they're showing it in the picture here. And it's cool to see that used effectively. And I just remember him and my Gung Ho character would hang out. They just seemed like they'd be good buddies, you know. They had a similar hat, they had similar hairy arms, you know, and they just seemed cool. I liked him. I just thought he was cool. And I know another buddy of mine that does a really cool Leatherneck costume, including the mustache, and he had that particular weapon 3D printed identically. Like if you took the original toy gun out of the action figure bubble, right, and he just made it full size. It was very, very cool.
Very nice. Yeah, Leatherneck. I like him. Like Kyle said, he got much more play in the cartoon. Him and Wetsuit was a duo, and where the comic book, Larry didn't seem to do as much with him. He was kind of the replacement for Gung Ho. Out of the two, I much prefer Gung Ho because Gung Ho's got much more, I think, personality and is an all-around better character. But don't get me wrong, I do like Leatherneck, and yeah, he did put on a good show in the cartoon. I say, even though Larry didn't seem to care for him as much for whatever reason. Again, I know Larry had a lot of characters to deal with, and he would tend to pick a few characters and do more in depth with them. and a lot of these other characters would just like Leatherneck, and eventually, like we'll get to Wetsuit. They would show up and they would do things, but they weren't as prominent in the comic. So, and that's one thing as we've talked about. No matter which character you like, for the most part, either between the comic and the cartoon, they would tend to feature most characters one way or the other. Some would give more than others, but and Leatherneck, yeah, he's a good character. He's just not as good as Gung Ho, but that's because I think Gung Ho had more personality. So, moving on to the next one, and I believe this would be Kevin's. Once we get there, we are. Kevin.
All right. Yes. Code name Lifeline. Rescue Trooper. File name Edwin C. Steen. Primary military specialty medic. Birthplace Seattle, Washington. Grade E5. Lifeline was a paramedic with the Seattle Fire Department for 5 years before he discovered that the EMS, the Emergency Medical Service personnel who were disabled while giving aid off duty, were not eligible for pensions. In his mind, rescue personnel were never off duty. He decided to make his status permanent by enlisting in the Army as a corpsman. Elite units, quote, elite units always take care of their own. The Joes are no exception. The troops have to know that if something really heavy comes down on them, that they're in no condition to walk out of the mess. Somebody is going to have a heart to wade in and extricate them. That somebody is Lifeline. I was always a fan of Lifeline. I thought he looked really cool. And the fact that he also carried a weapon, I thought was cool as well. And, he sticks out. He ain't in camouflage. That's for darn sure.
Right.
But you know that he was there to help take away the wounded. And a shout out to my friend Rebecca in the finest Southern Command there in Georgia. She does a fantastic Lifeline costume, and I just always thought that he looked really cool.
Yeah, I like Lifeline. He's kind of the replacement for Doc. They were both pacifists, but I think Lifeline was more played up as far as that goes. I mean, Doc's pacifism didn't really, as far as I recall, didn't seem to come into play as much. Where Lifeline, there was entire stories around the fact that, storylines where he was a pacifist. Even though it looks like he has a weapon in his hand there. Yeah, if I remember right, he didn't want to touch weapons, and
he always more in the cartoon. It was more in the cartoon that they played up the pacifism more than
he always had weapons on him in the comics. He has even a shoulder holster, and then he's got like another one on his thigh. Yeah,
but so I like Lifeline. He's a great character. Again, comparing to Doc, I don't know which one I like better because they're both, while they're very similar characters, they each got their own differences. So it's hard to pick for me between the two. Kyle?
Lifeline, as General Hawk put it, he has all the ability, but not the desire to lead.
Yes.
I love this character. I like the design of the character. I would really love to see a classified of Lifeline.
Yes.
Very good. I love the fact that like one of his equipment pieces in the original figure was like that oxygen tank in the rescue thing that he carried. I thought that was very cool. The bright red, not real great in a firefight, but it was a cool design for a character. They did a Tiger Force of Lifeline too. That was a really nice looking figure. The character was obviously much more spotlighted in the cartoon. He was one of the stars of that generation of the G.I. Joe comic. Or the cartoon, and I even remember the episode where he had the rich girl that was in love with him, and the solid gold helicopter and everything like that. But they used Lifeline a lot, and I liked how they portrayed the character in that way. And he was a character that came out towards the end of the Joe line, figure wise, but always a character that I really liked the look of, very unique and stood out. And I think it was a good. If you're replacing Doc, they made a good character to replace Doc with.
Yes. And he came out in the same wave as Leatherneck and Wetsuit, and that's when I started getting into the figures and buying them. It was around that time. So these characters very much stand out to me. I believe Kevin did that one, so the next one would be mine. Bring it up here. So the next one, lift ticket, Tomahawk pilot, thug, transport helicopter, utility ground support. File name, Sikorsky, Victor W.
Sikorsky, just like
Sikorsky.
the helicopter.
Thank you. Primary military specialty, rotary wing aircraft pilot. Secondary military specialty, fixed wing aircraft pilot. Birthplace, Lawton, Oklahoma. Grade W0-2. Lift Ticket was one of those guys who joined the Army to get out of his hometown. The big difference with Lift Ticket being that he scored so high on the aptitude test, they qualified for the West Point Prep, OCS, and Flight Warrant Officer School. Nobody in Lawton ever suspected that he was that smart. Apparently, neither did Lift Ticket since he opted for the Flight Warrant School over the others, thinking that if it was the only one that offered training applicable to civilian employment. Getting into a target area is comparatively easy. You wait until dark and get sneaky. Now, getting out once some caps have been popped and can of firefights have been open, that's a whole another story. All you can do is squat on the LZ, which is landing zone, and hope that whoever's driving that extraction helicopter is skillful, persistent, lucky, and bulletproof. Lift Ticket satisfies the first three requirements, and he's working on the fourth. Lift Ticket came with the Tomahawk.
Yeah.
Helicopter. Yeah, I had that one. I had the figure. I had the helicopter and the Lift Ticket both. Great figure. Yeah, again, I think he got much more play in the cartoon than he did in the comic. Again, this second, and I say second wave, but for the second series of the cartoon from this 86, I think it was the 86 brand of 86 wave of Joe's. They seem to get a lot more play in the cartoon than Larry gave them in the comic. I like Lift Ticket. Yeah, he's a great character. More so, like I said, in the cartoon. But yeah, I like Lift Ticket. Kyle, what do you think of Lift Ticket?
Lift Ticket, I love the character design. I'm a big fan of the Tomahawk. Now, if you're going to ask me which one I prefer between that and the Dragonfly, I'm going to take the Dragonfly every single time. But I love the Tomahawk. I thought it was a great toy. I think the only problem with that toy was it's hard as hell to find a place to keep it because it was huge and had all those blades and everything like that. But I like the design of Lift Ticket. I think that he was, for being a vehicle driver, they gave him a lot of play in that. And when he came into the G.I. Joe cartoon, he got a lot of shine much more than most of the vehicle drivers actually ended up getting. And again, this comes down to, again, vehicle driver synonymous with the vehicle. And if the vehicle's good, the vehicle driver is going to be popular. In this case, it is. And when I think back through Joe's and vehicle drivers, there's very few where the vehicle driver outshines the vehicle. But in this case, because of how Lift Ticket was portrayed in the cartoon and actually was a strong character in the cartoon, that I think it worked well here. So.
Yes, very much so. And Kevin.
That Tomahawk helicopter was really cool. You know, the Dragonfly is more iconic, but I felt that the Tomahawk was a little more practical, because you could hold more Joes in it as well. And it was really cool. You had like the side gunner thing going on too.
And the ramp too.
I just thought it was a really cool thing. But yeah, you're right. The thing was huge. But I don't know, Lift Ticket for me, he was just another driver for me. I thought I don't remember him much as a character per se, like I did like Wild Bill. Bill as a character. Wild Bill just looked cool, especially with his 6-shooter guns and stuff. But I think in this case, to me, I felt his vehicle outshined the actual driver, in my opinion.
You're not wrong there. And I wouldn't really compare Tomahawk to the Dragonfly because the Dragonfly, the Dragonfly was just a 2-seater. It was a smaller helicopter, where this was, actually an extraction helicopter to get a group of people out. So different types of helicopters, in my opinion. So I don't know if there's a comparison. As far as characters, like Kevin was saying, Wild Bill is a much better character, much more, and again, because he has much more of a personality. I mean, Lift Ticket was good, but Wild Bill as a character, especially in the cartoon, was very much more, had a bigger personality. So, moving on to the next one. And
This is the last one of this one. This is the last
Yeah,
one.
this is the next
I was
and
gonna look
final
and
of
see.
issue 1.
Yeah, we're getting there at the end. So, Kyle.
I think I am up with Lowlight, who was the Night Spotter, code file name Cooper G. McBride, primary military specialty infantry, secondary military specialty marksmanship instructor, birthplace Crosby, North Dakota, grade E6. As a child in North Dakota, Lowlight was afraid of the dark, timid with animals, and shy of loud noises. This appalled his father, who set out to cure him by leaving him in the country dump at midnight with a flashlight and a .22 rifle and instructions not to come home without 20 dead rats. 10 years later, he was an instructor at the Army Marksmanship Program in Fort Benning and a self-taught expert on image intensification. Quote, the Joes like to have a little light along for the ride. They know that if something gets really hairy, and that's bound to happen sooner or later, all they have to do is wait until dark. It doesn't matter what field of fire the bad guys control. The night belongs to the Lowlight. So, interesting thing with Lowlight, again, another character that came out later that Larry didn't really put a lot of emphasis on in the comics. But I was fascinated by this character in the cartoon because he had an edge to him, even in the cartoon for kids. There was just something about Lowlight that, yeah, I would have loved to have seen like a 5-issue Larry Hama written G.I. Joe special missions on Lowlight or something like that. Something a little bit more, because the character was very cool in the cartoon. I think the only thing they really did with Lowlight that was a shame in the cartoon and a waste of what the character really was, and I know it's probably hard to give a sniper his proper due in a cartoon, but they kind of made him and sci-fi like interchangeable a little bit in the cartoon at times.
Right.
But I like the design of the character. I think the fact that, he was a night sniper, something that, this is the kind of Joe that he goes on that Joe team that they do those missions they don't talk about. And I just think this was a character that really could have been given a lot more exploration. And really, they I was actually surprised kind of how edgy they wrote him in the cartoon, to be honest.
Yeah.
What do you remember from him in the cartoon? I'm kind of drawing a blank right now.
He was very well read. They were talking about there was a scene where they're on a mission. They're kind of undercover. He's talking to Leatherneck about books, and he's talking about all these books, and Leatherneck's, well, I read the other one that was about a lion, but there was that. He just always kind of had like this like low key cool demeanor. Not, he just was. It's like, yeah, this is not somebody you want to mess with.
One, as we've talked about before, a lot of times it seems like the cartoon, they didn't read the file cards or something. Because hey, Bazooka, according to his file card, comes across as very smart, where the cartoon he's not. This one here, it seems like they read his file card because the whole thing about being afraid of the dark, and that played into the episode where I think it was Mindbender was using a machine to give the G.I. Joe members bad dreams, and they focused on Lowlight in that episode. And that they went in that his whole backstory in there. So that was one of the times where the cartoon actually did read the file cards, and they had an episode that kind of focused on his backstory. So
of course, what they don't mention is this could have gone that backstory could have gone terribly tragic. And the next thing you know, we got a much worse problem on our hands.
Yes. So Kevin, Lowlight.
I was always a fan of Lowlight because he was the sniper, and I've always been fascinated with snipers throughout history. I've always liked sniper movies. I've always watched documentaries about snipers, and I've just always found them fascinating. And and there's just been so many iconic movies too that showcase a sniper as well. Whether it's Shooter or Saving Private Ryan or the one that's based. What's the one that's based off the World War II one, Kyle? Enemy at the Gates.
Yeah.
You had the famous Russian sniper against the famous German sniper, and even I saw a documentary on famous woman sniper, a Russian woman sniper as well. And I just always have been fascinated by snipers, and I liked Lowlight for that reason. I thought he looked cool. I love that that special red goggles that he had. And he just looked cool. And whenever I played with my GI Joes, I'd always have him over in the other side of the room, set up in a little sniper thing, and he would be the first one that would be scouting things out, but he never said much. And
Right.
I got it. I put a link in the private chat, guys, because there's a video called The Finest House 1 and The Finest House 2. And this is it was kind of a take off the real world, where a bunch of us went down to South Carolina to the USS Yorktown, and we would all rent a house as these costume members for the GI Joe Finest GI Joe group. And but we had a little fun. We would dress up in costume and do these like little interviews, like we were being interviewed for like the real world, right? And our good friend Johnny K. Kyle dressed up as Lowlight in one of these weekends, and his costume was spot on. And not only that, he played up to the character, and whenever he had that costume on, he said nothing, and he was very low key. And if you know Johnny, that's like not Johnny.
Yeah, exactly. That's a 180.
But yeah, if you do a Google search for GI Joe Finest Costume Group Lowlight, you'll see that pop up. And he had that little red goggle thing down, and it's hilarious. So, but it's on YouTube. I'm in one of them too, as Shipwreck, which is kind of funny. So, yeah, I love me some Lowlight.
Very nice. Yeah, I like Lowlight. Like Kyle said, he came in for the cartoon. He was in the second season. He was in that '86 wave of toys that came out. That the cartoon focused more on. They gave more love to those characters. Where Larry he wrote them because he had to, but Larry always tended to give more love to the original or the earlier versions of the characters. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do like Lowlight. He's an interesting character. Yeah, I do like I mentioned earlier. In the cartoon, they did touch into his backstory, and they gave us some off his file card in the actual story. So, and yeah, as Kyle said, yeah, his backstory could have turned a whole different direction. But that's going to do it for this episode of Bravo Teen in this first issue.
A little preview. This is the second issue right here, right?
Ooh, let me bring it full screen.
Yeah, can you zoom in on this real quick? Because I want to give a tease to the viewers here. So here's a cover of Order of Battle number 2. And if you look at you got Spirit there with Freedom. Yep. There you go. Got to get that in. And of course, you got Scarlet right in the middle there, leading the charge. But on the back, you see some other characters there. And oh my God, who is that right there? Is that Rocky Balboa?
Oh, what's he doing there? We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, there's Quick Kick and there's Shipwreck, and look at that. It looks like Polly's giving us a war cry scream there. Look at that. That's really cool. Totally forgot about that. But yeah, this will be a fun issue to dive into next.
Oh yeah. So Kyle, you weren't with us last episode. What are your thoughts on the cover?
I like the covers.
This issue.
I like the covers. I mean, they don't go into a lot of detail because they're adding so many Joes in, and some of them kind of tend to blend together. But I mean, this is a classic thing Marvel did for these kind of things. If you remember back in the day, whether it was with these or Transformers or something, they were always in this position where they were all running to somewhere in a direction, and you're like, what are they running to? And yeah, so I mean, I like these covers. I wish the art was a little bit finer on that, but it's a classic cover with Duke carrying the American flag, leading the Joes into battle, and it's just they're great covers. And these are, again, this is something comics don't do anymore, and I wish they did, because I love these kind of issues.
Yes, very much so. Yes. So, anyways, that's going to do it for this episode of Bravo Team, and we finally finished the first issue of Order of Battle. Only took us about 4.5 hours altogether. So.
There's a lot to cover. It's a fun discussion.
I guess it was very naive of me to think I would get 2 issues in one episode when I originally thought this through. But
the cool thing about it, though, that has happened organically, though, is that it's given us a chance to go and talk about why we like these characters and what impact they had on us, whether it was the TV shows or the comics. So
Yes.
it's a fun thing to discuss.
Oh no, I'm loving the conversation with you guys, and Kyle, definitely when we do this next time, if you want to join us,
Yeah,
like I said, you're
absolutely.
welcome back.
If time permits, absolutely. I would be glad to
You're
come
welcome
back.
back on any episode of GI Joe you want to come on, man. You're always welcome on the show. Just let me or
I'll
Kevin
tell you what,
know,
when
and-
you guys get up there, it's a ways away. I can't remember the actual issue number of it. One of my favorite issues of GI Joe was probably towards in the 80s or 90s, maybe even the early 100s. The Joes and Cobra fight over a newly formed like rock formation that's becoming an island, and it was the introduction of that whole line of GI Joes that included Hardball and Hit and Run.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool issue, and I there's
think we've
actually
already
several of those
discussed that
characters
one,
I really
right?
liked. What?
Yeah.
No, it's Hardball and them. That was a different storyline.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you're thinking of the formation of Cobra Island.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle's saying something different. Yeah, I believe.
And the vehicle, the Cobra vehicle in it was the Maggot, which was one of the more bizarre Cobra vehicles ever.
Definitely send me a reminder. We'll get there eventually.
The Buzzbore is the weirdest Cobra vehicle of all time.
I don't know. There was a pogo thing that Cobra had too.
That's true. Yeah.
No,
there you go.
Right there. That's it.
I recently just bought this.
Yep.
That was the spiritual successor to the Trouble Bubble, and it's like the forgotten cousin everybody would care to think never existed.
Speaking of, I passed on buying a Trouble Bubble at Target because I did not like the fact that it was Tiger Force colors.
Yeah,
the Python Patrol.
Yeah, the Python Patrol. Yeah, I didn't get it just because
it's got to be white. It's got to be white.
Yeah, I've got two of the classic gray ones, but I picked this up just because she asked all along. Well, I'm not a huge fan of the sub teams and the Python Patrol, but
that's the classic Trouble Bubble right there.
Yes.
That's the one that I like.
My other one,
guys, just real quick, I got to ask you since we're talking about the classified. There is a classified thing that should be made that they could put out in a figure blister. That would be so cool. Why do we not have classified snake armor yet?
I know, right? Jeez,
they're missing it. Yeah, no, that's definitely.
Yeah.
That.
I'm with you there, Kyle. That needs to happen.
I agree.
We need some classified pack rats too. There we go.
I would definitely love to have the snake armors classified. That'd be fantastic. But that's going to do it for this episode. Kyle, if people want to hear more from you, where can they go?
Well, like Kevin, you can find me on the Fandom Podcast Network at fpnet.podbean.com, or you can visit our YouTube page, Fandom Podcast Network, where we do all kinds of great live shows, including our Time Warp show, where we're taking a look back right now at the movies of 1984. We're having a lot of fun with that, and we do a lot of great things on the Fandom Podcast Network. If you want to find me on social medias, you can find me on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it at @KyleW, or you can find me on Instagram and Threads at @KyleFandom, and you can find me all over the Fandom Podcast Network page on Facebook.
And Kevin.
As Kyle mentioned, that link right there is to our audio podcast, but please follow us on YouTube at Fandom Podcast Network. All of our podcasts are on video now, and they're up there. We got a lot of fun stuff for different topics, whether it's movies, Star Trek, Star Wars, Highlander, hair metal. We got a bunch of stuff up there, and we're having a lot of fun, including our flagship show, Culture Clash, which we talk about the newest in pop culture. You can find me on X, Instagram, Threads, and Letterbox at Spartan_Phoenix.
And for me, you can find me on the Headcast Network. My website's still down. I'm still working on that, but I'm on Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads. I don't do as much as I should on those, but you can find me looking for either Headcast Network or G.I. Joe, Royal American Headcast. If you like what I'm doing here, again, you can always call and leave a message. I have the number on the screen, 1-559-500-3182. Call and leave a message. We can play that on the air. If you like what we're doing here, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Headcast Network. And I've got my whole line of shows. A couple of them are actually ending sometime this year. We're coming to the end of my Voyagers cast that the wife and I are doing. We've only got a couple episodes of that left. The adventure continues, the role-playing game. We've stopped playing that due to life. So the last couple episodes of that are coming out. My Starman Adventure Hour, or whatever I'm calling it this week. That one there is going to be ending, I believe, this year. I'm on the last 10 issues of that. So, and Suicide Squad is also in the last year or so. So, yeah, a lot of my shows are starting to wind down. So we'll see what happens after that. But definitely check it out on the Headcast Network. You can email me at gijoe@headspeaks.com. Anything at headspeaks.com will get to me. That's my main website. Definitely check it out. And I guess I'll do it this time. And again, I'm always terrible at this YouTube stuff. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons down below to be notified when we do new shows. Right now, again, the fourth Sunday of every month. Normally, we're doing the main show, G.I. Joe, Royal American Headcast. We look at the comic book and the cartoon, but I'm a little bit ahead on that or behind, depends how you look at it. So I've got time to fit these Bravo teams in there. So I'll be doing Bravo teams at some point. I'll be doing the G.I. Joe show. And then I've been doing the third Friday of every month. I'm off work. I've taken that day off. And I'm starting to do YouTube unboxing / review shows. So the third Friday of every month at 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, join us as I unbox. The last one I did the Dreadnoks, Buzzer, and Ripper. So join us there. Until next time, I guess that's going to do it. So for me and the rest of the guys, Yo Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Thank you very much. Let me stop the stream.
Bye,
And
guys.
thank you anyone that was watching.